Hi, everybody.
Hello. Oh, yeah, that's much better, Jeff. Now, I was hoping we had Nick Camacho with us, and then we have two Nicks and two Jeffs. And a Liz. Okay, so obviously Captain Nick is trying to get our attention with the fancy drink he has just made for himself.
It's pink.
Cheers.
How appropriate.
Well,
My cranberry juice. Cheers.
that's the colour of rhubarb.
Very nice.
Champ.
It is.
So
Rhubarb to you too.
I'm drinking out of
Tony
my
Smith.
Opposing Bases mug. So you can clearly
well
tell it's an Opposing
It's a
Bases
quality item.
mug
Ugh.
that has no writing on it. But it's a beautiful blue.
And
You
it was
just
free.
have to use your imagination.
It was free, right, Jeff?
It was free, and I did also. Was it AG's mom? I think won like this beautiful Opposing Bases jacket, and it was a little bit too big for her, and she gave it to me. So bless her heart.
Wow.
And is the writing still on that jacket?
It is.
Okay, so it
I
hasn't
haven't
faded.
washed it.
That's because you haven't made any coffee on it.
Yeah,
did it?
well, it's also
Hi, Neil.
embroidered, so it's kind
well.
of hard for it to fall off. I guess it could come like unstitched or something. All right.
So
who
no
are we saying
Steffi
hi
today. To Neil
Yeah, no
and Warren.
Steffi today.
No Rick, we don't
Oh,
think.
there's
unless-
Neil. It's civilized time,
Hello.
don't you think, Neil? Yeah, 7 o'clock.
Yeah, I think the Europeans
Very
and
nice.
the Gubby
How do you
who's in the
set
Middle
that up?
East.
Is it a separate window you got to put up?
On your
Comments.
interface, do you have on the right hand it says comments?
Okay. Got it.
Yeah. Okay. I'm not sure exactly what.
And I hold boxes. Hello again, sir.
And Gubby who's
Tony,
in
good
Abu
evening.
Dhabi.
Yeah, I said
Gubby.
hello to Gubby earlier.
Still in the desert over there,
My
Gubby?
granddad
sand
was
pit.
stumped. What was he playing cricket? When I told him I was off to the Luftwaffe for 4 years. Yeah. Yeah, what? You're going to fly for the
Who is that?
Luftwaffe?
Who was saying
Are
that?
they holding you prisoner?
Gubby.
Oh,
So you did an exchange with the Luftwaffe on what, Gubby?
Earth?
Some sort
And
of
did you have to
transport,
learn Deutsch? Deutsche?
Yeah, Sprechen Sie Deutsch?
So
Can you still say my grandmother has been struck by lightning?
No. Hi, Tim Van Ram. My grandmother has been struck by lightning. I bet that gets used a lot, eh?
Well, yeah,
My
absolutely.
great grandmother is a virgin.
10-mile march. What on earth were you thinking of?
I don't know.
Ja, ein
Ja,
Jahr.
ein Jahr.
1 year.
Ein Jahr. Ah. Right. Let's see. So, yeah, Steph is not going to join us. We're not absolutely sure whether or not Camacho Man will be joining us. He's not here yet.
He said maybe.
Maybe. So maybe
Keeping
he'll
us
join
guessing.
in progress.
Rick, I don't think so. He's
No,
off
I don't
somewhere.
think. Yeah, he's like.
He was
I don't know
going
where the heck he is.
overseas, but then I got canceled. I don't know where he is.
Uh-oh.
And
Now, is it
Radio
just-
Roger's off this week, so we're going old school on the intro.
Is it me that is having the issue with bandwidth again?
No,
Don't know.
didn't see it.
I don't see anything.
Oh
It's been
no.
Yep.
I didn't see any problem.
Okay. Hello.
Hello.
Let me do a quick test. Hang on. Dang it. Well, I mean, getting 430 down.
It should be somewhat
That's
adequate.
pretty good.
Yeah. If I had it hardwired, it'd be closer to 900 something. And the upload is 450, almost 460 up.
Can't be having any issues there.
So I don't understand why. I'm not really doing that much on this machine.
Sorry, we're not seeing any issues. So
Okay. I don't know what the deal is.
what's the deal?
What is the deal? Let me quit anything that I'm not using. Using that.
Eine
I don't
Oma
need.
ist von Blitzen getroffen.
Let's see.
My grandmother.
That. I don't need that.
You added an M in there. I don't think the M should. It either should be the M or the M, but not both. Let's see. I don't need that. I do the same thing. Don't need that.
Why has lightning got a capital B? Come on,
Because
Gabby.
it's important.
Yeah.
Mr. Lightning. We
He's trying
always
to warn you.
we always treat lightning with great respect.
Or anything to do with the
Okay.
blitz.
I've probably only been struck half a dozen times.
That's all?
Yeah.
Like personally or your airplane?
Mein Luftkissen.
Well, I think that counts as personally, doesn't it?
Well, I wouldn't
I'm
take it. I
sitting
wouldn't
in
take it personally if I were you.
I've been hit twice, both right on the windscreen in front of me.
Ah, you see, I always made sure it was my first officer that got hit.
I was the first officer.
There you go. God knows.
Good. There you go. There you go. That proves my theory. Captains are very poor conductors.
Yeah.
Yeah, that it froze again.
All nouns are capitalized.
Yeah, I thought that was right. Couldn't remember.
wow.
It's been too many years for me.
But so lightning is a noun? Well, I guess it is.
Yeah.
All nouns are capitalized?
Yes.
I don't remember that, but it's been a long time since I've had high school German.
Yeah.
Never
I stopped.
studied German.
I was 40 years ago. I was fluent, but not anymore.
1976.
Nowadays, you have to wear those special gentleman's pants if you're not fluent anymore.
I speak kindergarten.
It
Deutsch.
depends.
That means if you are fluid
Fluent.
Fluid?
and fluent.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I thought that's when you had too much to drink.
exactly.
Cheers.
So
Cheers.
Cheers, everybody.
I'll drink to that.
It's a bit early.
So you ready to go, Jeff?
I guess so. Let
Never.
me do another sound check just to
Nick,
make sure I'm not
the audio
blowing
is a
anybody out.
tad broken.
Okay. It's got to be his end, Nick, because
Yeah, and it's not broken here.
Well, it may have been the same thing I was hearing. It looked like
Well,
you froze momentarily too, and I thought
Let
maybe it was on my
me,
end.
do a quick bandwidth check at my end.
All right.
Where have I hidden that?
You're listening to the Airline Pilot Guy Show.
That's still okay? Volume?
Sounds good.
Okay. Dun, dun, dun. Look at Gubby just monopolizing the entire
know.
chat. Who does he think he is?
I don't know.
Seems good
Tony
to
likes
Tony.
the audio.
Yeah. Okay. It could be the people of the desert are meekering, probably.
Meekening?
That too. I knew as soon as I said that doesn't sound right. But maybe nobody will know that it was wrong.
It's got
But
standard.
no,
Come on.
that Jeff right there.
Everything's
Let
got
me see
standard.
it. I have 215 down. I only pay for 200, so that's pretty
15
good.
gravy.
I have
And it
429
looks
down
pretty
and
good.
32 up.
And 20 up, which is standard.
Sufficient. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, if anybody's lagging, then it's going to be me.
Well, but it wouldn't be. You wouldn't affect everybody else's signal. So
Because I'm about to be down, be up.
Oh, yeah, now he's Skyping.
well,
a
it's
little
because
bit
he's
there.
running that
Oh, yeah. Okay, got it.
speed test.
Gotcha. Got it.
So we'll just wait for a few seconds.
So
He'll
the
be
ping
back.
is 16 milliseconds. It doesn't seem to measure drop packets.
Let me try this.
Oh, this is good. I'm glad that he has a little name plaque behind him so I can remember who it is.
Jeff.
Oh, so it does.
There we go. I should be better now. I turned the VPN off.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Thank you. All right.
Okay.
Or I like to call it vaping.
Ready when you are.
Jeff,
sir.
you need to. This is ugly, Jeff. You need to do your hair a bit, mate. It's looking a bit fluffy.
Little fly away there.
Yeah, it'll fly away on the front.
That's helping.
He's got to get a comb now.
Makeup, hair.
Don't forget to do your shiny nose as well. Oh, handsome Jeff's off to do his shiny nose.
Mm-hmm.
I don't care. I have a shiny nose regardless.
Yeah, I don't care either, obviously. You
Think we'll
bowling
ever get
tomorrow?
this show on the road?
I don't know. I don't know. I was hoping you'd get to bed early, but it's not looking good. at
So
this
I
point.
was going to do a joke in my next plain tale. So you have to tell me, Liz, if this is a bit rude for the show.
Do tell.
Okay. What's the difference between a Harrier pilot and a hedgehog? Again, you can insert an aircraft of your choice, or indeed a spiny creature of your choice.
Okay.
So, what's the difference?
I don't know.
Okay, a hedgehog, echidna, porcupine, sea urchin, etc., has the pricks on the outside.
Oh, I think that's fun.
Ah, ha
I
ha.
like it.
Right, hang on.
Oh,
nice
he's got
glass.
the.
Oh, he's got all the
the,
merch.
A little late on that. Sorry.
Because I was talking
near the
about.
punchline.
I was talking about the bomber pilot joke. What's the difference between a Jaguar pilot and a Mark 82 bomb? Not all Mark 82s are retarded. Am I allowed to say that?
No, that's a word.
You just did.
I could have said Eagle driver, but I didn't because I'm nice.
That would be a first.
Yeah, that's stretching it.
Hair looks
Is that
good now,
stretching
Jeff.
it?
Hair looks good.
All right.
It's going in a plain tail, you see, so it'll be.
Oh, good.
Pre-recorded.
Because I'm talking about the difference between slick and retarded bombs.
Oh, yeah.
So-
Oh, I know.
Sure you are. Okay.
I'm ready.
I think we're about ready to go here. I have my recorder on, and
recorders, yes, good
yeah,
idea.
but you know what?
Jeff.
Jeff Felmuth doesn't have a recorder, so it doesn't matter. You don't have to worry about yours.
Oh, I'm going to stick it on anyway because I'm a good boy.
Okay.
So we can delete it.
Yeah, well, I've got to try and remember to delete. I've got about 15 gigabytes somewhere of past recordings.
He's obsessing on his hair now.
Should I hand you my hat?
It's flyaway hair. You know, it's
Yeah,
appropriate,
just
right?
like your mother,
aviation.
spit in your hand and
Flyboy hair.
wipe it on like your mother used to.
No, thank you. Oh, now where is he going?
Well, my daughter will be coming home with her friend, and the dog will go nuts.
Ah, okay. All right. Let's give this thing a try. I don't know. I have one of those feelings like it's going to be like three tries for this, but we'll see. Maybe I can get it in the first go. All right, here we go. Take it away, not Radio Roger.
You're listening to the Airline Pilot Guy Show. The view from our side of the cockpit door.
WAPG, it's the Airline Pilot Guy.
Airline Pilot Guy, episode 535.
Yeah, he's up in the sky. It's the Airline Pilot Guy.
Hello, you're listening to the Airline Pilot Guy Show, the view from our side of the cockpit door. I'm Captain Jeff, your host, broadcasting live from Studio 1A at the APG headquarters building in Roswell, Georgia. Today's show is recorded on the last day of August, 2022.
Yeah, he's up in the sky. It's the Airline Pilot Guy. It's your ride and he's flying by with the Airline Pilot Guy.
In today's show, a West Sweden ATP autopilot fails to disconnect, a cowling partially flies off the left engine of an Alaska 737. The NTSB issues its final report of a Southwest Airlines runway excursion at the Hollywood Burbank Airport in December of 2018. More news and your feedback. So get all settled in. Tray tables and seat backs in their upright and locked positions. Electronic devices powered on. Flight 535 is ready for pushback. Yay!
Nailed
I
it.
did it. Nailed it. Welcome to the Airline Pilot Guy Show. It's an aviation podcast covering the latest in aviation news and answering your great feedback. And joining me today from his studio,
in Hartford, Hereford, and Hampshire.
professional photographer, former RAF fighter pilot, retired Airbus A330, A340 captain for Virgin Atlantic Airways. It's Captain Nick.
Hi there, Jeff. What a shame we don't have a Nick. We could be really confused tonight.
Yes, we could. Well, we'll still be confused, regardless. All right. And also joining us from Warrenton, PA, former U.S. Air Force F-15 pilot, American Airlines captain, and now a Citation 10 pilot, the good-looking Captain Jeff.
I don't know about the good-looking part, but I'm just glad to be here. Thanks for inviting me.
We're glad you're here as well.
Atlanta Virgin?
Pardon me?
Virgin Atlanta is what you said Nick flew for? A little
Well, I said Virgin Atlantic, but maybe it sounded like Atlanta. But
sure.
if you're going to be critical here, Jeff, I'm going to boot you off this thing.
Bye, Jeff. You're leaving, right?
All right. Well, the Trollo man needs to
That was
stop
easy.
singing. All right. Oh,
He's
look
gone.
at that. He's gone. Well, I didn't do that. And while he's gone, a
Thanks,
place
Nick.
to stand, place to grow. It is from her studio in Toronto, Ontario, retired financier and aviation enthusiast, spreadsheet master, and our producer. It's Liz Piper.
Hi, everybody. You guys behave yourselves now.
Yeah, right.
No chance.
See you later.
McDonnell Douglas rule.
I've been on these shows without Steph, and it's always a hoot. No HR.
Steph has nothing to do with whether or not we're behaving or not.
In fact,
It's just
she's often the worst.
She's the one that, yeah, excellent.
Yeah,
exactly.
She's the stirrer.
I do hear you, Liz. Thank you. Sound room just doing a check, or the control room doing a check. And you know what we should do? We should do the news.
Good idea.
Stand by for news.
And I just realized that I should have given this information or access to the Evernote account to Colonel Jeff so he could follow along as well.
That's all right. I was a late ad.
Oh, well. Let's start with this. This is from the Av Herald, Aviation Herald. A West Air Sweden BAE ATP registration Sierra Echo Lima Papa Sierra performing freight flight 522 from East Midlands, England to the Isle of Man, UK with 2 crew was on final approach to Isle of Man's runway 26 when the first officer pilot flying attempted to disconnect the active Autopilot 2. However, no Autopilot disconnect whaler occurred, and there was resistance on the flight controls, although both primary flight displays showed the Autopilot disconnected. The captain took control, pressed the sync button, or maybe it's SYN button, I'm not sure, SYN, felt no longer resistance to flight control inputs and continued for a safe landing. On August 25th, 2022, just mere days ago, the AAIB released their final bulletin concluding the probable causes of the incident where the Autopilot wouldn't disconnect. The investigation concluded that the anomalies with the audio warnings were probably associated with corrosion and moisture caused by water ingress through the DV windows. DV windows. What's that mean?
Direct vision windows.
Oh, okay. Sure.
I'm thinking.
Yeah, sounds good to me. Let's see. The AAIB was unable to replicate the reported anomalies in the Autopilot system, but theoretical analysis by the Autopilot manufacturer identified a scenario involving the Autopilot disconnect button and the associated debounce circuit that could lead to a partial disengagement of the Autopilot. This scenario could explain the previous occurrences on Golf Bravo Uniform Romeo and Sierra Echo Mike Hotel Foxtrot, but would only partially explain the occurrence to this particular airplane. Although the aircraft abnormal emergency checklist did contain a procedure for the failure of the autopilot to disengage, the commander reacted instinctively due to his awareness of a previous occurrence that he had read about in an AAIB report. While the slipping clutch is designed to allow the crew to overpower an autopilot that does not disengage, a substantial increase in the force required to operate the flying controls when late on the approach could present an increased safety risk to the aircraft. The commander used the sync button, which allowed him to operate the controls without hindrance and land the aircraft without further incident. The AAIB analyzed that, they said the investigation could not find or identify any faults with the autopilot system that could explain the resistance to movement in the flying controls. But then it goes on into a little bit more detail about audio warnings and how the autopilot works with the various servos, etc., etc. I don't know. Captain Nick, what do you think? What's going on here?
I don't know what a sync button is.
I don't
Does
either.
anyone else know?
I don't know. I'm not an Well, hey, any ATP pilots in our live audience?
I think they're all dead.
Oh, iHall Boxes says ATP stands for always technical problems. Okay.
Yeah, well, this was not British Aerospace's crowning glory. This aeroplane, the fact it's got leaky windows doesn't surprise me, and letting moisture in. But I don't understand the technical issues raised. It sounds like they did everything they should do, but I think the possibility was that they might have been better off attempting a go-around and then sorting it out to make sure. Because if you find that the autopilot does something weird in the last 10 feet, you could be really embarrassed. And whilst he thought he'd got it sorted, my feeling is climb the airplane away, get it to a safe height, do a low-speed handling check, make sure that you've got full control of the airplane, and then make another approach. But that's just me. So yeah, there you go. We need Myla on the show. Yes, you're quite right.
Yeah.
Neil. Yeah.
Thank you, Neil, for that suggestion. A little late, don't you think?
Yes.
But okay.
She wasn't on the jump seat.
No, I looked for her all day. I couldn't find her.
By the way, I love the picture of the circuit board. I mean, that's really high tech, that stuff, isn't it? Look.
Yeah, it looks like an old Radio Shack
Exactly.
radio innards.
I've seen World War II airplanes with better looking circuit boards than that.
Well, at
but
least
there
it's
you go.
not tubes, vacuum tubes.
That's
That's
true.
true. Yes. That's very true.
But if it had vacuum tubes, it'd be impervious to nuclear. What do you call that? Nuclear
Yeah,
something.
EMP.
Something.
EMP,
it.
yeah.
Yeah, that. Yeah. So, well, there you have it. Anything
So
else?
I can't
to
really say much about it, but there you go. That's
Yeah.
my only real input. I thought perhaps they should have flown away and had to think about it before attempting the landing.
I don't get it that he pushed a button and didn't get the siren, but
Mhm.
it showed connected still.
Yeah.
And it's like, did he hit the wrong button?
Well, I don't know.
No, I had a feeling that the flight director and the pilot's flying display would show that the autopilot was disengaged. So it
Good.
did appear to be disengaged, but they didn't get the whaler because of the corrosion in that circuit board, and they also felt stiffness on the controls, indicating that perhaps the autopilot was still sort of physically engaged on the control system. That was my reading of it.
It's embarrassing to have stiffness on the controls, isn't it? No, actually, it's a good thing.
Some people would say yes, it was a
yeah,
good thing. Yes,
good thing.
The
good
pills
thing
not
working.
in this
It
case. though.
wasn't a Falcon. On the Falcon, if the autopilot doesn't disconnect, you cannot overpower it.
Oh, really?
It does not have that ability. It's
Oh.
Wow.
pretty interesting.
That's no good.
Yeah.
No, I don't like the sound of that.
All right, let's move on. We're going to try to knock out as much feedback as possible on today's show. So we're going to try to make the news segment of the show as short as possible. And let's go to this next item in the news. An incident. Alaska Air Boeing 737-900, registration November 293 Alpha Kilo, performing flight 558 from Seattle, Washington to San Diego with 176 passengers and 6 crew, was climbing out of Seattle's runway 16 left when the crew felt an unusual vibration from the left side of the aircraft. Let's see if we have maybe some news coverage of this.
Looking live out at SeaTac Airport, some scary moments for people on an Alaska Airlines flight from Seattle this morning as a plane made an emergency landing. Take a look here, some video we just got in tonight, and you can see parts of the left engine cowling coming loose during the landing. They start flapping. Eventually,
Is
they
it
break
Christmas?
free, exposing part of
Unwrapping the engine?
Alaska Airlines says the crew had
Good
reported
Lord.
an unusual vibration on
Wow.
the side of the plane soon after takeoff. This is a different view here. The plane returned to the airport and landed safely. Nobody was hurt. The plane was headed to San Diego. Passengers were rebooked on a different flight.
There we go.
Funny old thing.
So that was some interesting video footage. So it'll be in the show notes if you want to watch it too. Not entirely unusual for this sort of thing to occur. Now, I know that we've seen incidents like this where cowling has kind of let loose and they've kind of blamed it on maybe some maintenance was performed and they didn't fully latch the cowling latches, and then on the pre-flight inspection it was missed. But that doesn't always seem to be the case, but it's a possibility here, I guess.
This was a 7.3, right?
Yes.
Yeah, on the 7.3, to see those latches, they're on the belly of the engine.
Do you have to get on your back on the ground?
No, you have to kneel down. You have to squat down really deep or kneel down to see them. And even then you're still bending over some. And it was something I did routinely because you didn't want that to happen.
Yeah.
Those doors will fly off. You probably should not have gone the reverse because the blowers are right there, the openings. And that's probably why that other door came off. But it was a big deal. It was a huge pre-flight item.
Would that be something, I know, you know, it's been a while since you've flown the 7.3, but would that be something in the abnormal checklist to, like consider not using reverse thrust? Or
No, it's not in the checklist at all.
Okay. Interesting. All right. Well, I'm sure that was exciting for the passengers and the pilots.
Yeah.
All right.
And whoever did the pre-flight.
Yeah.
Well, yeah.
Really
I
exciting
mean, it
for that
became
person.
so serious on the Airbus because we had a number of those happen in a relatively short time. No particular reason other than, there was a spate of people leaving them unlatched. And then our company insisted that every time those cows were unlatched, you had to put an entry in the technical log, an engineering entry, which then had to be signed off to confirm that they had been latched. And that's how seriously it was taken, because normally you just open those cowlings, replenish the oil or whatever you're going to do in there and lock them up again. But obviously, the company went, well, we're not going to have one of these, so that's what we're going to do.
That's a good idea.
Yep. It is. All right. Well, that was a 737, Alaska type. Let's talk about another 737 incident. This is a final report from the NTSB. What's that?
Pick on Jeff Day.
No, it's good you're here
just
because we've
we
got
didn't
an
know-
expert.
We didn't know you were going to be here with us today. These items have been in the news notebook for quite some time, so we're not picking
It's
up.
a happy coincidence.
Yes, a happy coincidence for sure. Let's see. This was a Southwest Airlines flight, number 278, from Oakland International Airport to Hollywood Burbank Airport in Southern California. When it overran the end of runway 8, the airplane came to rest about 144 feet past the departure end of the runway and 71 feet into the Engineered Materials Arresting System, the EMAS setup. Shortly before the airplane touched down on the runway, the tower controller informed the flight crew that heavy precipitation was occurring directly over the airport, and the wind was from 270 degrees at 11 knots. Burbank has runway 8, which was 5,802 feet in length, kind of short, one of the shortest runways at airports where Southwest operated. Before the airplane reached the top of descent, the flight crew requested and received a landing data report generated from the Southwest Airlines Performance Weight and Balance System, the PWB. The report indicated that that maximum auto brake should be used for landing on runway 8 and that the stopping margin, that is the difference between the calculated landing distance, including a 15% safety factor, and the runway length available, the difference would be 245 feet. Woo, that's not a lot.
So that's the calculated spare room at the end of the runway when you grind to a halt, yeah?
Yeah, with maximum auto brakes.
Yeah.
Okay. And that was based on, well, here, let's go. The PWB system calculations assumed the touchdown would occur 1,500 feet from the runway threshold and that the wind would be from about 280 at 5 knots, not 11 at the time when they were what was being reported at the time.
They're done.
And both flight crew members expressed concern about the stopping distance given the wet runway. Okay, let's throw that one in too. The tailwind that would be present and the runway length, and they discussed that the braking action upon touchdown would need to be pretty abrupt. Also, even though the first officer stated during a post-incident interview that Burbank always has a low number for the stopping margin, the captain stated that he had not previously seen a stopping margin as low as the one for this incident flight. While the airplane was descending through the terminal area, the controller advised the flight crew that the pilot of a King Air airplane reported a 15-knot loss of airspeed on final approach, and a corporate jet had just conducted a go-around at Burbank because of the wind. Okay, another couple items to throw in there and kind of make the hair on the back of your neck start standing up and wondering, is this a good idea? However, after the controller cleared the airplane to land, the controller advised the flight crew that a pilot of a Boeing 737 airplane had reported braking action as good 10 minutes earlier. Oh, okay, now maybe it's not that bad. Shortly before landing, the tower controller reported that the wind was from 270 degrees at 10, and then less than 1 minute later, 270 at 11. The Southwest Boeing 737 new generation aircraft operating manual stated that the tailwind limit for landing was 10 knots. After the second wind report, the first officer stated, "We got 11 knots. You want to call it good?" The captain replied, "Yeah." During a post-incident interview, the captain stated that both he and the first officer assumed that the tailwind component would be about 9 to 10 knots, presumably because the wind would not be directly behind the airplane, given the wind direction and the orientation of the runway. The Southwest Airlines 737 operating manual also stated that for tailwind landings, the target speed should be the reference landing speed plus 5. The PWB system determined that the VREF for the flight would be 126 knots, so the target speed should have been 131. However, the aircraft performance study for this incident determined that the airplane's speed over the runway threshold was 137, so about 6 knots higher. Also, the true airspeed and ground speed, based on flight data recorder data, showed that a tailwind of 13 to 18 knots was over the runway at that time, considerably more than they were planning, and not the 5-knot tailwind that the PWB system calculations assumed. Further, the aircraft performance study found that the airplane touched down about 2,500 feet past the runway threshold, which was 1,000 feet beyond the 1,500-foot touchdown point assumed in the PWB system calculations. This study finding was consistent with the Burbank Tower Controller's observation of the airplane touching down near the intersection of runway Delta 7 and runway 8, which was about 2,600 feet from the runway threshold. The operating manual stated that if an airplane were to touch down beyond the 1,500-foot point, the stopping margin that the PWB system calculated would be invalid, and that in some cases the runway length would be insufficient for the airplane to stop. In this case, the longer than normal touchdown point, the higher than expected tailwind, and the faster than nominal approach speed increased the airplane's required landing distance, making the 245-foot stopping margin calculation invalid. All right, so here we go. They have some more narrative here, in addition to some more, quotes from their interviews and such. But I think you get the picture here. The conditions were not good for landing on runway 8. You have wet runway, you have a higher than reported tailwind, you're touching down on the runway well past the point at which you had to be on the runway for this to be a successful landing. So there are a lot of things going on, including, let's throw in the wind shear, the 15-knot loss. I mean, it's a very demanding situation. Yeah. So What do you think, Captain Jeff?
So is this an 800? I missed that.
I don't know.
I don't think so.
737 7H4.
Oh, so it would be a 700 then,
It's
maybe.
a 700, so it's shorter. I was
Yeah.
wondering because the ref for an 800 would be they must have been empty for that ref speed.
Mm-hmm.
I can tell you in an 800, he ain't stopping on that runway because his ref would have been about his approach speed would have been over 140 because the airplane's so long. You have an inflated ref speed, and max brakes on that airplane are really good, but you only have 4 tires with brakes, 2 on each side, and I used 8,500 feet of a 9,000 foot long runway in Mexico one time. Now that wasn't grooved. This is a grooved runway. But when if their performance data is showing 240 feet and they got twice the amount of tailwind, that airplane's not stopping, not even close. He can be max, and it's interesting because the PWB normally doesn't include reverse thrust. It just uses brakes. So with the extra 1,000 feet of float down the runway, and it's like midway all over again. And
and they had an incident several years ago at Burbank as well, running off the end of the runway. I think since then they installed this EMAS, and that definitely helped the situation. Yeah. Man, I mean, just reading this report made me just almost shiver a little bit. All these things.
We all look down at the inertial nav, not the inertial, but at your displays, and you can see the tailwind there. You can see the tailwind component, and it's interesting because you'll see different numbers on each side of the cockpit, so because they're each coming off of a different inertial nav unit, and it's just not something I trust. If I see something, if I'm looking at 10 more knots, or if I hear, 270 at 11 is an 11 knot tailwind. It's only 10 degrees off the runway, and that's twice what you think. And is that the limit with 245 feet? No, I'd have gone around.
Yeah. IHAL boxes.
It looks like neither of the pilots appreciated that they had done a long landing. That's part of it. And this takes me to the fact that, it's not easy on civil airfields to work out how long the runway is, how far you've got to go, where your touchdown point is relative to the length of the runway, particularly on runways like this where they're short, and it's quite critical. In the military, we always had 1,000-foot markers.
Yep.
So you could see exactly where you were in relation to the length of the runway, where your touchdown. You've got to really know the airport quite well sometimes, as they suggest here. You'd have to know that taxiway they went past when they touched down was 2,500 feet in to really know exactly where it was you landed. So, for me, that would have helped them a lot if they'd had that, indication. But very few civil airports do it for some reason.
For me, when I'm coming in on a contaminated runway like this, I'm actually ducking under the glide slope a little bit because I want to land as close to the approach end as I can, and it's an incomplete flare. I'm going to put it down a little bit firm to make sure I don't bounce or float. I want it on the ground so I can get those brakes working.
Yeah, exactly. I suppose the fact that there being a wind shear and a speed drop by 15 knots perhaps made them a little bit cautious of doing that, and perhaps that's why he had a little bit of speed in hand. He was anticipating that and went, okay. But when you realise that actually you floated a bit and your speed's pretty high, that's the time to go, well, let's go around and have another go. This one wasn't perfect.
Yeah, somebody's asking, the wet runway reverse is taken into account? No, it's contaminated runways. You put the thrust reversers in, not wet.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, interesting final report, or interesting incident. And again, that was about 3 years ago, almost 4 years ago. Yeah.
Yeah, the other point I was going to make was it's all right to plan for a set of weather conditions, but as soon as you realize that the actual conditions are different, you've got to throw the plan out of the window, and you can't just rely on sticking a wet finger into the airstream to gauge whether you're going to stop or not. You've got to go, those numbers we calculated are invalid. They already only gave us a 250 odd foot margin. We've probably lost that now. This is time to think fast and do the responsible thing. Easy for me to say. I don't have to do it anymore.
Right.
That pilot thing.
Yeah, it is. It's a pilot thing.
It is. And, that completion bias, I think is what they call that, where you just, you just don't start taking these cues, or continuation bias, where you're just like, this is my plan, and I'm sticking to it, regardless of what happens around me.
Yeah.
The world's falling down around me, and I'm just going to keep going.
10 to 1, if this bloke had been given the same situation on a simulator check ride when he's expecting to have to deal with these kind of things, he would have gone, I'm going around, because that's the safe option. He knew he might well be criticised by his trainer and fail the check ride if he doesn't, particularly when he's been told the wind's out of limits for the company and he's floated. You don't want to have a floater.
Yeah, definitely not. Good points. Very good points. It's interesting sometimes, though, how when we're in the real world and getting that mission completion bias and everything else, it's just if you're in the simulator, everybody is analyzing and evaluating every decision you're making, and in the airplane, you should probably have that same kind of feeling that everything is going to be possibly evaluated.
To answer Gubby's question, when you're in max brakes on a 7.3, weight on wheels, and you have 3,000 pounds of PSI pushing the brakes down, it's instantaneous.
Yeah, but he delayed a little bit before he actually got max braking pressure on, I think.
No, if he set the auto brakes to max brake, it's instantaneous.
Yeah, but he kicked him off pretty quick.
I think almost as soon as the auto brakes came on. Yeah, because Jeff doesn't know this because he doesn't have
6 seconds to get
report.
Full pedal pressure on.
Yeah, that was a part that I didn't read. I perhaps should have included that in our discussion.
So that didn't help
here.
either. And all this, he's got 15% margin there, safety margin, but all this is eating into his 15%. Yeah. And on a runway that short, 15% isn't a lot.
Right. Yeah, any kind of margin at all that they thought that they had was kind of wiped out by almost every single item that was not what they expected. So, that's...
just the extra 5 knots of tailwind is enough to almost put them off the end of the runway.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
Okay, well, let's move on with this. Last item in our... No, not the last, second to last item in our news segment. The FAA moves secondary flight deck barrier requirement forward. The U.S. Department of Transportation's FAA has proposed requiring a second barrier to the flight deck on certain commercial airplanes. The additional barrier would protect flight decks from intrusion when the flight deck door is open. Flight crews keep us safe when we travel to visit loved ones, explore new places, and conduct business. They, too, deserve to be protected, and this rulemaking is an important step, according to U.S. Transportation Secretary Pete Buttigieg. The proposed rule requires aircraft manufacturers to install a second physical barrier on airplanes produced after the rule goes... Wait, hang on. The proposed rule requires aircraft manufacturers to install a second physical barrier on airplanes produced after the rule goes into effect. Okay. So only in brand new airplanes after this rule goes into effect. No retrofitting. Each additional layer of safety matters. Protecting flight crews helps keep our system the safest in the world, according to the acting administrator of the FAA, Billy Nolan, who is a helicopter pilot and former commercial airline captain. Last year, the Biden-Harris administration put the secondary flight deck barrier on its priority rulemaking list. During 2019 and 2020, the FAA worked with aircraft manufacturers, labor partners, and others to gather recommendations that are included in today's proposal. The Administrative Procedures Act requires FAA to follow the full rulemaking process for this mandate that Congress included in the 2018 FAA Reauthorization Act. The 2018 FAA Reauthorization Act. 4 years ago. The public has 60 days to comment on the proposed rule once it's published in the Federal Register. The FAA will publish a final rule after the comment period closes.
This
All
is
right.
interesting. My congressman, I don't know if you're aware, but 2 of the pilots killed on 9/11 were from my area. And the local congressman has been fighting for the secondary barrier since like 2003. I think it was United had some airplanes with this, and I've never seen one, but I've heard it's like an accordion door, but like a chain link fence that comes out on the opposite side from the cockpit door, right before first class. So if you come in the airplane, you turn right, that's where the door would be instead of turning left to go to the cockpit. So if you came up from first class, you wouldn't be able to get to the galley. That's my
Right.
understanding. Whereas, like I said, I've never seen one, but that was my understanding. I think United had a couple of jets they were tried it with.
Well, I think that it does depend on the.
Yes, Mike, I agree.
Yeah.
Put all the passengers in cuffs when they get on board.
Well, that's one way to handle, a situation. Probably not the best. It depends on the airplane. Where, on the airplane that I fly, the barrier would have to be a little bit further back after you've turned right, because, the whole point of it is to allow us access to the lav, first class lav.
It's on the other side of the door.
Yeah.
Oh,
Well, I mean, you walk in and then you hang. Yeah, it's not on the left like it is on most of the Boeings. It's on the right after you hang a right, like you're going into first class. Yeah.
okay.
So, yeah, same place it was on the MD 80 you flew, or 82, but it's been a while.
That's been a long time.
Yeah. Okay. Finally, a bald eagle in TSA line surprises Charlotte airport passengers. And this is from the Washington Post. Yes, a bald eagle went through a TSA checkpoint. It was on a business trip. And it's a very large eagle, too. Look, it's like bigger than
the woman.
bigger than that woman there. Yeah.
Wow.
Which came in handy for screening in Charlotte. Okay. It's often a thrill to spot a
And it's not
bald eagle.
bald. It's got feathers all over its head.
Oh, yeah, that's true, huh? Well, it must be a lucky one.
This is a bald eagle. Or getting bald.
Let's see. Mans is out here bringing a bald eagle through TSA at Charlotte Douglas, one man wrote on Twitter Monday. Who's Mans? Mans is out here bringing a bald eagle through TSA at Charlotte Douglas, one man wrote on Twitter Monday, along with on Twitter there's an accent. You can detect it a little bit.
Very good.
Along with a video of an eagle flapping its wings and craning its neck while perched on a handler's left arm. Fellow social media users suggested it was an emotional support eagle and wondered if it would fly regional carrier American Eagle. Ugh. Wow, bad.
Don't.
Yeah. The avian passenger was actually on a business trip. Clark, the eagle from the World Bird Sanctuary in Missouri, had traveled to Charlotte to make an appearance at High Point University. The school said in a tweet, hatched at the sanctuary as part of a breeding program about 20 years ago, Clark could not be released into the wild like his siblings, according to the organization's website, so he became a flying ambassador at special events. Anyway. Pretty interesting, huh?
I want to see the TSA agent who got to frisk him.
Yeah. Well, yeah, he's no longer alive.
Yeah, he's in the hospital.
It is a beautiful looking bird, though, isn't it?
It is.
Doesn't he look great?
Liz is making the point that those eyes are just beautiful, penetrating eyes.
Yeah.
All right.
Not as penetrating as that beak.
Yeah, that would be very penetrating.
He's looking at the TSA guy. Yeah, you touch me with that wand and you're going to get something here.
Yeah,
okay.
Absolutely.
You're good. We're good. We good. All right. You know what it is? What time it is? It's time to do this. It's time to get to know us. Hence, the Getting to Know You theme. Getting to like us. Getting to hope you like us too. Yes, those are the real words. They changed it in the play and the movie. Oh, whoa. Look at that.
My wish has come true.
Just joined us. So we have Jeff and Nick. Hey, Nick Camacho.
Hey there. How's it going?
Good. Tap your microphone. Nope. It's your computer, I think, that that I'm listening to. Your computer mic, not your Motu.
Still not there?
Now it is. You got it now. Yeah.
Okay.
Cool. All right. So we just finished the news segment, Camacho.
Okay.
And we're about to do the Getting to Know Us segment. Do you want to say anything to the community before we do that?
I don't think so.
Okay, good. Well, it was a short news segment today, and we're going to try to cover a bunch of feedback. So I'm glad you're here.
Glad to be here.
All right. And by the way, just in case you're not aware, and this is the first time listening to the show, Nick Camacho is an aerospace engineer working in the aerospace. I'm sorry, not airspace, but their aerospace is part of aerospace, right? And I should probably just look.
I'm
at
trying
his
to work out how you engineer an airspace. What kind of
Well,
tools do you use?
The people at NATS and the
I'm sure there's
FAA.
somebody employed by the FAA to do that.
Yeah,
The other podcast.
there is. Yeah, like the Opposing Bases podcast.
Yeah,
Did
what
I
kind
show
of
you
a spanner do you use?
show
to
you my mug? Right.
engineer an
Opposing
airspace?
bases?
Oh, did you wash it?
Anyway, yeah, no, I didn't. I didn't. Well, you know what? I hand washed it, but it still fell off. Anyway, so he is a where are you? Here we go. He's from the Wichita, the air capital, low and slow pilot, old airplane enthusiast, and engineer in the aerospace and defense industry. There you go. That's Nick. So now you're up to speed, and we're going to talk about stuff that has happened to all of us between shows. And let's see, Nick. Oh, you know what? I think I'm gonna go first, and then we'll save Captain Nick for last. How about? Okay. Let's see. We have some photos here that Liz is going to share with us of a meetup that I had on Sunday afternoon. Nick Arander and his girlfriend Jenny contacted me a little over 2 weeks ago and said that they were going to be flying into Atlanta and then heading up to, where all did they go? Asheville, North Carolina, Pigeon Forge and Dollywood, and Nashville, Tennessee. And then I think they worked their way down to the Gulf Coast, New Orleans, I think, and then over through the Mississippi Gulf Coast. And then finally the Florida Panhandle, Pensacola Beach, and then finally back north to the Atlanta International Airport. And they said, hey, if you're available, it'd be a lot of fun to meet up with you. And so I drove down to a city right next to the Atlanta International Airport called College Park, and the brake pad and bar and grill, I think they call it. And yeah, so here are some pictures from that. It was great to meet Nick in person. He's a patron and has been for quite a while. They were flying home that night, yes. And so we met about 4:30-ish, and then I think they had to return the rental car around 7:30, and then at some point thereafter they made their all-night flight back home to London. So it was really cool meeting them. And I should mention, and I included this in my my daily digest. I've been trying to do crew logs it's a perk for those of you or those who have signed up to be patrons of the show. And so I think the one that I did for Sunday was a video recording that I had made with the two of them at the brake pad. So more incentive for you to consider becoming a patron via Patreon. And I think that was pretty much it. I haven't flown a trip since the last show, have I? I don't think so. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I kind of planned my schedule so I'd have most of the week off because things are going on here at APG headquarters and some moves being made. And well, it's still, I mean, where is the headquarters then, Liz, if it's not here? Wherever I am is where the headquarters are. So right now it is the APG headquarters. What else do I have in here? Anything else? No, that's it. I am scheduled to go out on a 3-day trip leaving on Sunday. So I'll get to sing at the Vigil Mass on Saturday afternoon and early evening. And then I'll be out for a 3-day trip. And I think I go to, oh, shoot, I have to pull it up. Oh, that's right. Thank you. Baton Rouge, Louisiana, and Madison, Wisconsin. Thank you, Liz. It's so nice to have her in my ear telling me what the heck that I'm going to be doing.
When she knows your schedule better than you do.
I know, it is, really.
We should be calling her Babelfish because you stick her
Babelfish,
in
yeah.
your ear.
You know what is really bad is that I rely upon her so much while I'm doing the show that, like, during non-show times, I'm expecting to hear Liz. Like I'm having a conversation with somebody, and I'm going, come on, help me out here. Oh, yeah, she's not in my ear. And if she is, well, then something's wrong, right? Yeah, it is trouble. All right. Jeff Felmuth, what have you been up to since the last time you were on the show?
Last time I was on the show
Well, we don't have that long.
was in Atlanta. Come on.
Yeah, a lot has happened.
Just this past week, I've been on a trip crisscrossing the United States. Had one interesting incident. We landed on the North Complex in L.A., and the where we park is as far south as you can get in L.A., and as we're crossing the final runway, I'm looking at the cabin and go, what is this guy doing? He's all over the place. The airplane's kind of jerking around. Then I realized the tiller wheel is just spinning in his hand. It's disconnected.
That's
So
no
we had
good.
just gotten off the runway on the parallel, and he kept it straight down the taxiway until we got to the FBO. Then he stopped there, and we called the FBO. You guys, come on out and tug us. And the handle literally came off in his hand, the whole wheel. He's just
That's
spinning
why
it
they
like
call it a handle.
Yeah. So that airplane got to stay there, and we went to a hotel, and we found a little par 3 golf course right by the hotel. So we played golf all afternoon.
Oh, you made the most of it.
Yeah. So we had a good
Lemonade
time.
out of lemons. Yeah. Very cool.
That was
So-
the event of my
So-
life this week.
So when you found the grub screw that you tightened to put the handle back on, you now worked out the perfect way to get the day off and play a game of golf. You just
No, but that's not what happened. There's
is it not?
When the handle came off, there's actually a pin that goes through the handle and connects through. And it's got to be a unit because you can't put the pin in and put the handle back on. And you can't put the handle on and put the pin in. It's internal.
Oh Lord!
Oh, yes.
How complicated do you want to make these things?
Been there for a week.
Wow.
Wow.
So,
Well,
Yeah.
well, I'm glad that. So about an hour before the show, Jeff contacts me and says, "Hey, I can be on the show if you want," because there were some things that he was going to kind of help us sort out with the 737 incident in Ethiopia, I believe.
oh,
that we
yeah.
had
That's the big one.
covered, and some other because Jeff, the last airplane that he flew for American Airlines was the 73, so he's an expert, and we always appreciate his
Can we do that now?
expertise. Sure, yeah, why not?
Okay. For one thing, you were the one that had the depressurization.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, those gauges are from the original 73s, and they are a pain in the neck to read.
And I
They're
think it was the same thing that we had in the 727 as well.
Yeah, it's basically the same thing. Yeah, it's. I always knew that if you ever lost both controllers, you were a single pilot.
Mm-hmm.
The other guy was going to be busy.
Right.
The TUI one where they hit toga. If you hit it once, you get 2,000 feet per minute, just like on the 7.5 or 7.6. So they must have hit it twice. But even at 2,000 feet per minute, it's a pretty rapid climb. Having done
Yeah.
it,
Only 400 feet to go. They're at
Yeah.
2,600 going to 3.
and
Yeah.
and it can be pretty disorienting because all you're thinking at this point is because what do you do in the sim? Every time you hit toga, it's flaps 15, positive rate, gear up. So it's like your muscle memory to just do that.
Mm-hmm.
I think it was Nick talking about, well, they should have just figured out where they were, but you're trained to do that. Flaps 15, positive rate, gear up on a Boeing. And it's just like automatic. That's part of it.
Yeah.
The EPGWS that didn't activate, it should have. There's if it's not over the runway, if you're not at the approach end of the runway, it should activate.
Mm.
So if he's, yeah. The Ethiopian one, this one was kind of interesting. Why did they pick ILS Yankee? I think it's because it was the first one they found. Because Y becomes before Z.
Okay.
That's the only thing I think.
Yeah.
On a 7.3, if you hit a discontinuity, the autopilot does not disconnect. It goes into heading hold.
Okay.
But why it disconnected for them? If they have the Yankee in there, it gets to that turn with no defined point to turn at.
Mm-hmm.
It's the end of the route because the missed approach procedure does not activate in the box. It doesn't become active unless you hit the toga buttons. So they hit the end of the route and the autopilot goes, yeah, I'm done.
And it just disconnects.
Yeah, at the end of the route,
Yeah.
but not at a discontinuity. Just goes to heading
Wow.
hold.
It seems to me like, I mean, in the airplane that I fly, if it comes to the end, it's just going to stay on and just keep on going the way it's going.
Yeah, you would think that, but that's the only I've never experienced it. So I'm just guessing that's the way it might be, but I know.
Oh, sure. You've never fallen asleep, huh? Like these guys, huh?
No. You forget I flew single seat. I was terrified to fall asleep.
And your first officers were also terrified to fall asleep when you were captain.
Oh yeah, when I'm flying, they better be.
iHall Boxes has a question. Good looking, Captain Jeff. Thanks, iHall Boxes. How's the Citation comparing to the Falcon?
The Citation is a much better airplane for two reasons, and it's the two motors. The Falcon and the Citation are roughly the same size. They're within a couple 100 pounds for takeoff weight and landing weight. The Citation has almost about 1,500 pounds of thrust more per each engine, which is significant at that same weight.
Wow.
Which is probably why the thing does 9.2.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
0.92 Mach.
Yeah. So we cruise around at 8.6 to save gas.
Right.
At 45.
9.2. That's slick. Yeah. All right. Anything else?
And the MD-82 powerback video.
Yeah.
There is a marshaller there. I've done it. I never did. I've been in the airplane when the captain's done it. And there's a guy, and they're weird signals because you're going backwards.
Mm-hmm.
And but there's a guy there marshalling you. So yeah, it is an unnatural act to do that. I'm sorry. I've only done it a couple times.
I'm glad I never had to do it.
Yeah.
Officially.
You never did it in the 7.2?
No.
Oh.
Nope. I did in the 7.2 once. We did put them in reverse to kind of help the tug get out of its
rut.
Rut, and it was like it was Boise, and it was like in snow and ice, and it didn't have enough friction to get the thing rolling backwards. So I think the captain helped a little bit with some reverse, and it got us moving backwards a little bit.
The key is don't touch the brakes.
Yeah. Well, that brings to mind my famous pushing back from the gate at the B concourse in Atlanta, and the tug was like going, and all of a sudden it just goes, and we go over this bump, and then of course the chalk was still in apparently, or at least one chalk, maybe both. And as soon as it got on the other side of the chalk, the airplane had some momentum now, and it just kept going. And I still remember watching the tug and the tug driver holding onto the headset wire as he stayed pretty much in one place, and we were continuing to move backwards. So the tow bar disconnected, and I'm thinking, okay, what do we do now? And the only thing that anybody thought to say to the captain was, don't hit the brakes, don't slam on the brakes, don't, be careful. No engine was running at this point, so they couldn't use engine thrust to kind of arrest the backward motion, but we kind of just let the energy, dissipate, and then it stopped.
Yeah, well, my one tow bar brake was the same thing. I heard brake, and I looked out, and the tow bar is sticking off the front of the tug about 30 yards in front of me, and I'm going backwards with nothing around. It's like, okay, it's going to be a little while. Hope there's nothing back there.
It's like, what do we do now? Nobody ever. We hadn't heard this situation discussed in the simulator or training for the airplane. We're like, what do we do now?
Why would you not hit the brakes?
It'll do a wheelie.
Well, yeah, because the 727 is very, very heavily biased toward the weight and balance toward the back of the airplane. And in fact, that's why it was a requirement to have the air stairs down, which actually were a physical support for the tail of the airplane, much like, what is it, the 900, Jeff, that has the pole that they stick under under the tail to keep it from tipping backwards when they're loading and offloading.
So do they not put anybody in the cockpit when they're towing it? without
Yes,
a pilot?
they do. They should.
Well, what's he in there for if he can't hit the brakes?
Well, no, you don't. You don't want to slam on the brakes. You just kind of very gently.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I guess
very gently, because
that's
even on
what
the
I mean, yeah.
I was on,
Okay.
it would stand up.
you have to just very, very gently do it.
Gotcha.
And just
Okay.
be mindful that you could tip the thing
Yeah,
on
yeah,
the
yeah.
tail.
That makes sense.
Tail tipping.
Yes,
I
Liz?
like.
Gently, gently, yes. Very true. Okay. Excellent. Any
Next.
Okay, Nick Camacho. How have you been, sir?
I've been all right, except for my standard time zone situation, which I screwed up again today. But
Oh, well, we
Happens,
started the show a little bit earlier than we normally do.
well, I know, but you started it when you told me you were going to start it, and I was not here. Like I told you, I was going to be here.
Oh, okay. Well,
Um,
I thought, we kind of discussed that before we started the recording, and I said, well, I thought he was going to be here, but then we weren't sure, and so we figured, well, hey, if he shows up, that's great. If not, then sorry we missed you.
Didn't we go through this with Rick at one point? With Zulu
Yeah,
time?
Rick has a lot of issues with time zones for sure.
yeah, but Rick's in like 500 different time zones.
Yeah, I know.
I'm
You're
in
just
Central, and we always record in Eastern, and
Your
I can
one
never
job.
straight. I know.
your one job, and you screwed it up.
I know. But yeah, so I was late because I just finished taking my second AMP written.
Oh,
Which I
that's right.
passed.
How did that go?
I passed, so I'm
Oh,
glad.
awesome.
well done.
Okay, wait,
Good
there we
job.
go.
Yeah.
Good job, Nick.
Um,
Well done.
I will say this one was more challenging than the first one. The first one was so it's broken into three parts, right? General, airframe, and power plant. General contains mostly it's general, right? So it's just kind of generic knowledge that you need to work on stuff. It's a lot of like math, physics, privileges, basic electrical. So all of that, I had a pretty good background in addition, working on the airplanes, but also in addition to that with my education background. Getting into the airframe, there was some stuff that I was really tight on, the type of stuff that I had worked on my airplane before. Then there was also stuff that I have never dealt with in my life, like pressurization systems, environmental control systems, fire control systems, basically all the big airplane stuff, and then the helicopter stuff. So there was some starting from ground zero on some of those topics, but managed to make it through it.
Excellent.
So that was good.
Yeah. So is there a part 3 on this?
Yeah. So the third test is the power plant.
Okay. And when
So
is that
it's-
going to happen?
Well, I don't know. I leave for California in 2 weeks, and I'm trying to decide if I'm going to try to take it right before I leave, which would be aggressive, but it would also kind of motivate me to
Right.
get after it. So we will see.
Okay. Well, you're 2/3 of the way there then, huh?
Yeah. Yep. For the writtens.
For the written. Oh, and then you have
yeah.
to do a practical or something?
Yeah. Yep. So
Well,
I
they
feel
take
I'm
you to an airplane and say, okay, which bit's the power plant?
they do. Yeah. They don't ask you what
I
the
could do
power
that
plant is, but you do go to a testing area where they have actual airplanes. Most of the time it's local AMP schools. So they're supposed to be airworthy airplanes, but it doesn't seem like they ever are, but they'll walk you up to it, and they'll have you identify things. Like I've talked to guys who, I'm trying to think, some of the stuff that was on their practical was they had to identify and describe how they would repair an oil leak on an engine. So they had to inspect the engine and find the oil leak and then explain how they'd repair it. They can give you safety wiring tasks, turnbuckle safety wiring tasks, hardware safety wiring tasks. They could give you like a riveting task. So it all is very practical and very
Brilliant.
Yeah, it
hands-on.
does sound riveting.
Yeah.
Maybe they'll take you out to a DC-3.
That would be good because I've been around those some. My biggest fear is
A
like
little bit.
walking up to a jet engine and then being like, "All right, tell me about this." And I'm like,
Yeah, I don't
in school when I was for the very brief time I was in Aero, we had shirts that were like cartoonized or caricaturized the 4 phases of the jet engine: the suck, squeeze, bang, blow shirts. And that's about the extent of my knowledge of a jet
That's the only
engine.
thing I would say during my
There's
practical.
a suck phase, a squeeze phase, a bang phase, and a blow phase.
Well,
don't
there's
we
a
all
10
know?
over at Textron that I left.
We all like the blow face.
All right.
So, Nick, if you want to work on a jet, there's a C-750 over at Textron that I left there 2 weeks ago.
Oh yeah, in Wichita or at the?
At Wichita.
Still there?
I think so, yeah.
Oh,
I haven't checked, but it
sounds
was
pretty
last
serious.
a couple days ago.
Hmm.
Oh, yeah. One airspeed indicator said I was in the hook, and the other one said I was 10 knots above the hook.
Man, I'm not sure.
What's
I don't
10
know if
knots
I'd-
between friends?
I don't know
Yeah.
if I'd hire Colonel Jeff to be a pilot. So I met him on a maintenance situation.
Mm-hmm.
He opened the show by talking about a maintenance situation.
Mm-hmm.
And now he's left an airplane here with a maintenance situation. And there seem to be two things associated with all these events. There are maintenance situations and there's Colonel Jeff.
We would ask the question, do you have a snake in your bag or something? No, I think that's the term
I
that we
can
use.
say that I've never had any really severe emergency since I left the military.
Oh, now you've done it.
Yeah.
Oh, God.
I wouldn't have said that.
We wait with bated breath for the next show.
I will have you on after your next significant
After my accident, thanks.
accident. Nick Anderson, finally.
Yes, sir.
You we're quite busy between between this show and the last.
Yeah, had a little bit going on. So I don't mind being busy. It's great, but you know, the United Kingdom is not an ideal place to go for long drives. So I had a while at home. Had a great bowls match on Tuesday. But the big event really was heading off to say goodbye to our lovely friend Ivor, who was buried. Well, he wasn't buried actually; he was cremated on Friday the 26th. So Neville Bounds was up there from PTUK, and we got together at the Pentrabachin crematorium in Rosdellen, and it was very nice to meet his friends and family. Had school friends there, had work colleagues, people who knew him very well, people who were just passing acquaintances, which I suppose I would be in the category of, even though we had, you know, met him and communicated with him a great deal. You know, we sort of hung back a little bit because, you know, the family have to take first place. But it was a very nice service, and the lady who was presiding over there had taken a lot of time to find out about Ivor's background, and had some great quotes from him. And then we sort of got together afterwards at a very nice place in Oswestry, which was in fact in an old railway shed. It was beautifully done out. It was kind of a restaurant and bar, and we all chatted about Ivor and the things we knew about him, and we got together with Kirsty, his lovely wife. They had photographs of Ivor and his various adventures through his life, which was brilliant. And one of the nice things they did was to put out little notepads on all the tables so we could all write some of our memories down. And I remember I messaged you, Jeff, and said, how does Ivor used to finish his little monologues that he used to write for us? And so we said, Ivor used to write in our podcast and would end by saying, love and kisses from Ivor, or so nighty-night from Ivor. I love you all, some more than others, and with good reason. And he often used to call himself Tarquin. I never quite found out the reason for that, but he used to sign off as Ta-ta from Tarquin. And then another favourite was chocolate biscuits and marshmallows, Ivor. And we filled out a couple of these, so I ended by writing, Ivor, what a gem of a man, irreverent, joyous, and full of life. He made so many of us titter, giggle, laugh, and roll around on the floor with his many monologues. a true friend to his many fans on the APG podcast. So it was a pleasure to be there with young Nev and sort of represent the show and say goodbye to our lovely friend Ivor, who passed away in, a very sudden manner. Very sadly, he had a heart attack and passed very quickly.
Yeah.
And there was little to be done to save him. So it was, he was not an old chap, he probably a couple of years younger than me. So absolutely, it was a sad moment. But it's all part of the great circle of life, isn't it?
Yeah.
So,
and the entire APG community really appreciates and thanks you and Nev for, being up there to represent the aviation community, podcasting community.
Thanks very much. Yeah, I hope someone pitches up to my funeral there.
Yeah, that's not going to happen.
Wouldn't have thought so. And I wouldn't blame you at all. Anyway, so that has really been the biggest event during the week. And, his lovely wife did say that she would like to sort of find out more about the community and perhaps, stay part of it.
Mm-hmm.
So if you do see Tricia, and I discovered that she is
Kirsty?
a private pilot.
Okay. Oh.
So she did her license and did about 40 hours, but she's not current. But she has a love of flying, and
Excellent.
yeah. So I think that would be very good. If
She's watching us right now, hey, welcome aboard, and we look forward to you becoming a bigger part of our community.
Yeah, absolutely. Kirsty and her son Rob and his new wife Katie, they were there. So Kirsty, I don't know if you do. I left our card, so if you are listening, it was lovely to meet you, and it was a wonderful send off. And we'd of course love to support you, and would welcome you in with open arms to our community, Kirsty.
Yes. Okay. Hey, I'm going to have to just pause for a moment. I do apologize because we're going to do the cover art next. Unless you want to do it in my absence, that's fine too. I have a lawn service guy out there right now that I have to really talk to about coordinating something here. So, if you want to do the cover art while I'm gone, that's fine. If not, we'll do it when I get back. Hopefully this won't take very long. All right.
So I might as well do the cover art because it's been sitting here twiddling our thumbs. I was actually on the show, I think, where we were talking about what a CAD, and I'm trying to think. Oh, it was to do with the ejector seats. That's right.
Component.
There it was. Can't hear you, Liz.
She popped in there for a second.
Nigel sent in an article on Martin Baker and CADs.
That's right.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. What does CAD stand for again?
Cartridge activated something.
Device. Well done. The ones that weren't being properly maintained by Martin Baker. So Jeff made the suggestion of egads, what a CAD. So, and of course, I was making the joke during the show about CADs and bounders. So because it's probably, I won't say exclusively, but better known in the United Kingdom compared with our cousins over the pond. You don't have many bounders over there, do you?
No.
No.
I think you could say exclusively on the show afterwards when we were talking about it. There was
Absolutely.
only the UK people knew what that meant, or the Commonwealth people knew what that meant.
I got the dictionary out and put the dictionary definitions of there. And then I asked Jeff to do his take a selfie in his best moustache twiddling, dishonorable man look on his face. And I waited and waited, and eventually I thought, well, there's a 5-hour time difference. By the time he gets to this, it's going to be too late for me to do this artwork. So I took a selfie of myself. And so we've got a caddish looking leather jacketed pilot, and I just needed a decent cockpit, and the F-35 just happened to pop up, so that's good. So in an F-35, sitting on a Marlin Baker ejector seat. So there's the link. And EGAD's What a Cad was the show title, or in fact, Jeff used EGAD, What a Cad. They're interchangeable. You can have singular or plural, it means the same. And for fun, we put the show number in there on one of the warnings on the side of the cockpit. And also APG in there. You'll find canopy has been misspelt where on one of those words. And we managed to get the logo into the ejector seat sign. So that helped out as well. So there you go. That was last week's cover art.
Nice stash.
Yes, actually,
The
I
monocle looks
pinched
good.
the tash. Yeah, I thought so too. And I would wear one, actually, because, if one eye is weaker than the other, you can just correct one eye. You don't have to have a whole pair of glasses. I think it would look good. No, I got that from a chap with a very fine moustache and copied his moustache, stuck it on myself. Because one thing my moustache doesn't do is it doesn't grow long well, and it doesn't come out to the sides well. So
I thought you stole the one from Robin Holtz.
Yes, you are. He had a fantastic moustache. I loved it. Yeah, his soup strainer was very good indeed. Yeah. And I love the story of sort of how he got away with it all that time in Vietnam until he got home.
Yeah.
Was given the job as commandant of the academy or something. And,
I always found that to be absolutely amazing from his history in Vietnam that he becomes the commandant of cadets of the academy.
Yeah,
and
I thought it was brilliant.
I mean, just the opposite of what you would think. But,
yes, very true.
Quite the leader.
An inspirational leader whose his pilots loved him dearly, and he turned that wing completely around from the problems they were having. So it was a great story to be able to relate, and I felt an enormous connection with him. He would have been my kind of a boss. I would have loved to have worked for him.
Yeah, I served with a lot of guys who were in that unit in Vietnam who were, senior to me, of course, because I wasn't over there, but and they had just the stories of, the bar and the hooches and the camaraderie. And I think I was sharing earlier about the story I was telling about Pardo's push, where I got to meet Bob Pardo, and their concern wasn't about how many MiGs they shot down that day. Their concern was about where was Robin's wingman who had gotten shot down at the beginning of the engagement, and that was just the way they did things. So
absolutely, yeah, very much so. And I love the fact that he was actually in some incredibly famous squadrons. He flew for the Hat and the Ring bunch.
Mm-hmm.
He commanded number 1 squadron of the Royal Air Force, and
that one I didn't know about.
Yes. Well, number 1 squadron started off in the 1870s, I think 1878, as a balloon unit. So, it was literally the first. Yes. Well, that's how they got the idea for the Harrier, it just goes up and down. That's all it ever did, really. Yeah. But no, Robin Olds, what a character. Yeah. Great man. So, this ideal thing for a plane tale. Unlike the ones I do about myself, which I'm doing another one right now. So sorry about that.
I love your logbook stories, Nick. I can so relate to those.
Well, brilliant. I'm very glad you do. Thanks for that.
Yeah. 4 IPs walk into a bar. Yeah, nothing to be said.
Brilliant.
All right, so
Jeff,
fill me
we've
in.
done it. And,
fill me in.
We filled in.
Okay,
Show's over.
You did the cover art. Okay, good.
You got all the feedback done.
You just need the coffee bar fund now, and then we can move on to feedback.
All right, let's do the coffee bar fund, as Nick likes to call it. And here we go.
Johnny, how much more coffee?
No thanks.
I love coffee. I love tea. I love the APG community. Coffee and tea and the Java and me. A cup, a cup, a cup, a cup, a cup. I should have asked Colonel Jeff to join me. He is also a singer, sings in his choir at his church. But it would have been horrible though, because the latency is just, it's not good. Anywho, the Coffee Fund is your way to support the show financially. And a couple of different ways to do it. One is the OG, the original Coffee Fund classic method via PayPal. You can make mostly used for one-time or every once in a while kind of donations. And since the last episode, we got a very, very nice, generous contribution from Samuel Dawson. Thank you, Samuel, for that. And we do appreciate that. And we also have some folks that use it for recurring contributions as well. However, the bulk of the folks that do a recurring style of contribution to the show are patrons of the show via patreon.com/airlinepilotguy. No new patrons this week, but we got a big group of really, really good supportive people that are patrons of the show. And good point, Liz. You're missing all those daily digests that I've just started putting out. I think I have done, how many now? 4 or so? And I'm trying to do them every day, but, I probably won't do one today, of course, because we're recording the show. But, if you want to check it out and kind of hear some of the behind-the-scenes stuff happening with the show, please consider becoming a patron of the show. And again, head over to airlinepilotguy.com/coffee for more information about the Coffee Bar Club. Uh-oh. We have a missing man. Camacho's down. Okay. Well, we're hoping that he'll be able to come back. And
someone needs to go back for him.
Yeah, somebody.
We never leave a man behind.
Oh, there he is.
Hey.
He just wanted to be above Captain Nick. That's all it was.
Yes. Well, all he has to do is drag it. All right. Now I think pardon me? Yep. Feedback time. Here we go.
Captain, incoming message.
All right, we plan on doing a bunch of it on today's show, and I guess we should start off. You know what? I'm going to skip the first one so that I'm able to get the video associated with that one ready while we discuss item 4. Adam sent in this. I came across this article below about BAE Systems Tempest jet in development and targeted for pushback in 2027. Sporting ambition to pilot-based AI, where receptor, or is that Al? Every time I see AI, I have to admit, it looks like Al to me.
Yes, it does.
I'm thinking, why is Al? Captain Al is everywhere. Same thing? Artificial intelligence? No, that would be no intelligence, Liz. No, I'm just kidding. Al, we love you. You're a very intelligent man. A lot smarter than I am, for sure. Anyway, so let me start this sentence over again. Sporting ambition of pilot-based AI, where receptors in the helmet build a profile of each pilot to assist decision-making and possibly reduce reaction time or recovering G-lock, G-induced loss of consciousness, seems revolutionary. Further applications where it would be the lead aircraft in a formation with otherwise unmanned aircraft is once again set to shift the approach to combat hugely. I'd love to know your thoughts on this and other applications that you think would be beneficial using this sort of technology. Also, if your aircraft made decisions and flew itself in your style from an AI based on you, what would it do? Steph, I'm guessing yours would decide to stop flying and descend on a parachute system instead, like a few smaller aircraft.
They've already invented that.
Yeah. Anyway, he gave us a link to the article from the bbc.co.uk, and he says, wishing you all clear skies, tailwinds, and the good stuff that goes with it. Oh, I like that. Kind regards, Adam. And again, the article to which he was referring is a mind-reading combat jet for the future from BBC News. And I think Liz was showing some of the pictures out of the story. During World War II, Spitfire pilots described their plane as so responsive it felt like an extension of their limbs. I could use one of those. Fighter pilots of the 2030s, however, will have an even closer relationship with their fighter jet, and it will read their minds. How does it do that? That's
What was the movie with Clint Eastwood about the Russian fighter that he had to think in Russian to make it fly?
Yeah. I forgot what that was. Anyway, yeah. So this is not a new idea then, apparently.
Firefox or something?
Yes.
I think you're
That's
right.
it. Good job, Nick.
Yeah, one feature will be an artificial intelligence tool to assist the human pilot when they are overwhelmed or under extreme stress. Sensors in the pilot's helmet will monitor brain signals and other medical data, so over successive flights, the AI will amass a huge biometric and psychometric information database. This library of the pilot's unique characteristics means that the onboard AI will be able to step in and assist if the sensors indicate that they may need help. For example, if the AI could take over if the pilot loses consciousness due to high gravity forces. It's a good thing here we have two former fighter pilots that might be a little familiar with how this whole thing could possibly help a fighter pilot.
Two dated fighter pilots.
I think Lieutenant Colonel just giggling as I am, because I'm thinking there was absolutely nothing even in the pipeline when I was flying that would have even vaguely resembled this. So all I can do is try and imagine what's going to go wrong, because it was bad enough when Airbus came out with fly-by-wire and everyone started saying, what's it doing now? And, oh, look, it's doing it again. Everyone trying to work out what the airplane was doing. Can you imagine what would happen if your aircraft started interpreting what you were thinking and started doing things for you? Because you've made no direct input. You really would have, on occasions, absolutely no idea what it was doing or why it was doing it. And I'm trying to work out how on earth you would correctly assume that the aircraft was doing what you wanted it to, what it ought to do, when you really have no idea. And the same would apply to your automatic wingman, which is, I think, not a bad idea at all to have these, because all of a sudden you've got double the missile load and an aircraft that can pull airframe limits of G without no pilot in there to go unconscious. So you could send it out ahead of you into a merge and let it loose while you hung back and hung back safely and picked off the loose ones that popped out of the furball. I can see that sort of working, but there is too much time has gone and too much technology has been created for me to even guess how this is going to work. I'm afraid I'm going to have to take it back.
I think we ought to vote that iHall gets kicked out. I'm a little hurt.
What do you say?
These two are exactly the reason why we are now in dire need for AI, are they?
Well, he does make a good point. Yeah.
Well, here's the real question. Which version of English is it going to be speaking? British, Canadian, American, Australian, or New Zealand?
Well, it depends what you think, what version you think.
What do you think?
Queen's English. I mean, what if you get, you and Al or Pip, y'all speak a different dialect or different accent.
Yeah, but do we think in the same dialect? That's the other thing. I mean, how does it interpret what you actually want it to do? And if you get frightened and your brain starts going, whoa, no, you might be able to overcome that. But if all of a sudden your automatic wingman turns around and runs away, oh no, you go, come back, you coward.
I mean, it's a nice idea, but we are all so, even in the same airplane, we all fly it so differently, and you're not always flying the same tail number. So it would have to adapt to each pilot. It would. I can't imagine the complications of it.
No, I tend to agree. I'm sure it will have some applications, but for heaven's sake, we've got voice control now, which can be a great thing. But if you're continually having to rethink a set of instructions for your aircraft because it's misinterpreted the last go, I'm just trying to wonder how reliable it would be.
How many times have you yelled at Siri?
Well, here's what I'm thinking. How many times, be honest, You go and open up the refrigerator, and the door's open, and you're just staring at the shelves because you're trying to recall exactly what it was that you were opening the refrigerator for and looking for.
Because you opened the door.
Yeah. So now apply that into the cockpit. Okay, what was I going to do again?
Hopefully, if it was clever enough, it would tell you.
Oh, yeah. And some...
You forgot what you're here for? It's that beer over there.
That beer right there.
Yeah.
That mustard. Yeah. Crazy. Well, we'll see, I guess, if this is something that is a
I'm
reality.
impressed that they're even investigating this avenue because, there are an awful lot of us out here are skeptics.
Yep.
Having seen fancy bits of kit they've tried to put in fighters come to grief in the past.
Well, Nick, you mentioned, the drone wingman. I mean, the AI needs to be there.
I think it's probably in both. I think it's, and talking to each other.
They're going to have to know what to do, and they're going to have to figure out and sort. There's some sort of that out there, but get that fixed before you try putting it in my cockpit.
So there actually is a loyal wingman program in the States also.
Yes.
Kratos is building
Australia are
XP-3A,
developing one,
which is the same concept, except I don't think they have the focus on AI that this airplane has. But
so it's going to be fascinating. I think it'll probably, in some aspects, it'll probably be very good. When we talk about AI, I don't really think it's necessarily copying our brain and making decisions like that. I think it's following algorithms which we'll program. It will be able to recognize enemy aircraft from its emissions and its outline and from the radar returns we're getting from it. It will be able to work out attack profiles. It'll be able to make all sorts of clever decisions like that. So I think if you threw these into a fight, as long as I wasn't in there and it didn't have to make sure that I got shot by accident, I think it could be very useful. It would certainly take the load off, wouldn't it, if you had someone else in there just doing all this wing-ding 20G turns, which we would struggle with.
You think?
Just
20G? Okay.
I was bad enough.
I discovered the other day that, most World War II fighters, because they didn't have G meters, they were regularly pulling 12 and 14G.
Wow.
Those machines.
Without the aid of G suits and all that.
Yeah, because most of it was snap turns.
Right.
Not sustained, but...
yeah. Wow. All right. Well, interesting. Thank you again, Adam, for pointing us to that BBC article about AI, or AL, your choice. And
perhaps that's what they'd call the AI.
And okay, that was Adam, right? Yeah, but this is is this the same Adam? Okay, well, maybe the same Adam, maybe a different one. Liz is checking right now, but this one sent us a link, a YouTube video link. Air Force. Oh, it is Adam Catling. Okay, same Adam. Air Force versus Navy landings. And a few weeks back in one of Nick's Plane Tales, he mentioned receiving feedback about his landings on the F-18 when he was doing his conversion training down under. It reminded me of a Navy versus Air Force landing video I'd seen a while ago. And tonight it popped up on my feed, so I wanted to share it with you. So we are, in turn, going to share it with everybody watching the show. And, of course, you're listening to the audio podcast, you'll have to go to the show notes to find the link. But if you're watching the video, here we go. Oh, look at that. Rolled it on.
Big
Air Force.
Lifter.
Isn't that nice?
Now this is how real men land.
Take that, runway.
Yeah, and that.
Let's see that again. I'm going to turn the sound off, though, this time. Okay, there's the Air Force Viper.
Yeah.
Coming in and just very...
Oh, touchy-feely. Yeah.
Yeah, that's nice.
Don't muss my hair.
You don't want to roll those wheels too fast.
Here
But here's the Navy guy. Bam!
The landing my Airbus did in Denver last night.
I love that. That is so cool.
Oh, man. So, your thoughts? Any? That's why AI is going to be a problem here.
I
have
like
no thoughts.
long runways and cables that roll out a long way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Well, I like the idea of planting it on, but I could do both. That was the nice thing. I had an option, so I didn't have to do one or the other. And if I felt like, you're right. If I had a big long runway, I would, perhaps tweak a little bit more alpha, give a touch of power just to cushion on and squeak one on. But if I just wanted to get to the bar, I'd bang it in. The airspeed would instantly drop 10 knots. I'd be off at the first turn off, park the jet, out into the bar, crack the first beer. Always tastes good, that first beer.
And he's walking, as he's walking away from the airplane, the technicians are, there with the fire extinguishers,
Yeah, that's right. They're pumping up the oleos, fixing the hydraulic leaks.
Swarming the jet.
And all the spillage.
Yeah. Way to go.
Yeah. Well, thanks, Adam, for giving us
very
that
funny.
link. We have some audio feedback from Brian, passenger Brian Coleman, contributing editor and co-host of Airplane Geeks and host of The Journey is the Reward. And here we go. We're going to play this. I'm not even sure if I've listened to this, so let's see what he is asking us about.
Hi, Captain Jeff and crew. I had 2 questions for you this week. 1, I think I've noticed that Captain Jeff is growing a bit whiter in the APG graphic. Is this my eyes going, or did the graphic update to reflect the captain's advanced age?
AI.
Just wondering.
AI.
My other question is for Captain Nick. I just returned from a trip to Johannesburg and was wondering about high-altitude airport flying, in particular Johannesburg. Is there anything special that you have to do or to plan for with such high altitude? The airport is sitting at about 5,700 feet. For comparative purposes, Denver's at about 5,200 feet. So really, does the additional 500 feet make a difference? Is there even a difference between landing at an airport at 5,000 feet versus one at sea level? Also, I guess I'm wondering if there are any other high-altitude airports which you've flown in and out of. I think Captain Rick might have flown into some high-altitude airports in South America, but I have no idea what they might compare to in feet and altitude. Anyway, just wondering if there's anything special that needs to be accounted for at these airports. Remember, the journey is the reward. Fly safely, Brian.
Nice little plug for his new podcast. Yeah, all I'll say is high altitude does make a pretty big difference, and that's all I'm going to say. And I'm going to let I'll address the first question that he had. Yeah, the gray hair. I know I got so much flack from people, saying, "Oh, that's a cute avatar." When was that? Like 30 years ago?
Yeah, it looks more like Nick Camacho now.
Yeah. So without the beard. So I thought, you know what? Okay. So that's why I contacted Jim Mercado and I said, could you alter it a little bit to, reflect my current hair coif color? So he did that. So
of course, you could be like a lot of people nowadays and just put that hairspray, dye your hair pink, green, different color each week.
Whatever mood I'm in. No, not going to do that. Yeah,
I think you can both do that. Captain.
Oh yeah.
I don't think you're.
I already have. I've put white in it. Can you see?
Does Jeff feel better?
So maybe after I retire, I can put some pink in my hair or something.
Hey, I'm just more worried about keeping it than what color it is.
You got to have some to color it, right? Of course, there's wigs. You can start going the wig route, right? That's enough talk about that stuff. High altitude airports. Okay, go. Whoever wants to go.
Well, there's not a lot of difference between 5,200 and 5,700, so you wouldn't really notice that. But sea level to 5,000, that's quite a density altitude variation. And we would have a special section when we're in our training notes when we're going to high altitude airfields to cover. And I would, particularly if I had an airfoe who hadn't done one recently or at all, I would brief the differences. So, when you're flying around at 5,000 feet, the aircraft is going to stall a bit faster. So you need to keep your speed up. And also, you've got more inertia for, the same amount of airspeed. So, and it is significant. So you're going to have a longer landing run, you're going to have hotter brakes, all that kind of stuff. The airplane will need just a smidge of an earlier flare because you've got slightly more inertia. So you just take that into account when you're doing it. And for the takeoffs, we had a standard extra bit to add onto the PA, which explained why the takeoff roll was going to be extended, because we would have to get a higher speed, higher ground speed to get the same airspeed so that we would lift off safely. We had to be careful not to over-rotate the tyres, because if we got the ground speed too high, the tyre rotation speed would exceed the limits, and you'd have to write off all the wheels on the airplane, which was extremely expensive because they had exceeded the limits. So you wouldn't find out about it probably till you got to the next landing, and the engineers took a look at it, and the computers would flag up if you've oversped the wheels during the takeoff run, acquiring your flying speed, and the margin wasn't great. It was only small. In addition, we'd often, out of Joburg, use a different flap setting, which used to have problems in the fact that the aircraft had relatively slow acceleration compared with a low altitude airfield, and people used to want to do the same amount of flap movements that they were used to in time. We've been airborne now for 15 seconds. We ought to be moving the flaps. We seem to be sitting here doing nothing, and they would often call for a flap when it wasn't yet necessary, because we only had one stage of flap to bring up, and then people used to get themselves into all sorts of trouble calling for flaps too early. So there are differences. The other place we used to go to, which was fairly high, was Nairobi, or Nairobi, as I used to like to call it. So both those airfields. But you're right, Rick has been to airfields even higher than that. And I don't know about you, Colonel Jeff, whether you have a lot of high altitude airfield experience.
Yes. Mexico City is the one that comes to mind. First time there was, the 737-800, like I've said before, had a fast approach speed, but your true airspeed is significantly higher. And I mean, you're in the flare doing like 180 true because you're up at 7,500 feet almost. It makes for a really long, they have a 13,000 foot long runway for a reason. And because you need it. Aspen is the one I've been to in the charter business. It's 8,000 feet, and you're there on a hot summer day, and the pressure altitude can be approaching 10. I mean, I was at Rifle, which is not quite 6,000 feet, but it was 95 degrees outside, so the pressure altitude was actually 9,000 feet. So the engines don't perform as well because it's thinner air. Your true airspeed needs to be higher to get the same amount of lift or the same amount of braking action. Yeah, it's a lot more braking action. Like you said, the flare's got to be sooner, rotation's got to be slower, and you're waiting forever to pull up the flaps.
Yeah. I think for me, I think the highest I've ever been is somewhere in the U.S., the Southwest, El Paso and Tucson, Arizona, Denver, etc. Nothing much higher than that. But I think that Brian was alluding to Miami Rick, and the one that he always talks about flying into and out of Quito. That one, the new airport, 9,228 feet. That's pretty high up there. Yeah. And I did a quick search online, and the highest civilian airport elevation in the world is serves Dasheng County in the Garza Tibetan Autonomous Prefecture of Sichuan Province in China. Sichuan Province in China. And I'll
Nailed
probably
it.
have to. Yeah, thank you. Wait.
Just say it.
Wow. I mean, I don't think anybody could do any better than that. Anyway, 4,411 meters above sea level, and that works out to be 14,472 feet. That's pretty high up there.
You'd need oxygen to take off.
I know.
Just to walk up the air stairs, you'd need oxygen.
And I think
America used to fly into La Paz, which is like at 13,000 feet.
yeah,
And
I was thinking that was pretty.
They did
pretty
walk-arounds with an oxygen bottle.
Oh my gosh!
You couldn't lay over there.
Wow.
Good Lord.
I like
And
to
Quito
practice.
was a requirement. We did that in the sim if you were on the 7.5. It was required training to
Wow.
do the approach in the old Quito airport.
Let's see. iHall Boxes likes to practice manual level offs at 20,000 plus feet whenever given the opportunity to remind myself about the high altitude handling characteristics of the aircraft. Yeah, that's very important and something that we don't really do very often. And that's, yeah, it definitely handles much differently as it gets higher up in the thinner air, for sure. Anyway. All right. Anything else to add or subtract to that one?
I think the only thing I'll add, I think Brian is more of a kerosene burner like you guys, but the other significant aspect of altitude impact, right? Density altitude is what everyone's always concerned about because that's kind of more indicative of how the airplane's going to perform. And he was asking about 5,200 versus 5,700 feet. It would not be at all unusual that you could take off from an airport at 5,200 feet that's hot and fly to an airport that's 5,700 feet but cool temperature.
Yeah.
And the performance of the airplane will actually be inverse of what you expect because of the impact of the temperature and you flying to different weather systems. And then the other thing is with piston engines, you also have to account for since everything is manually fuel is manually metered and you are setting the mixture yourself. There's an additional step once you start operating up high, which is you have to down around sea level. Airplanes are all set up to take off at full rich mixture settings at full power.
So the most fuel to air.
The
mixture.
most fuel. Yep, exactly. Okay. And so you have a mixture knob, right, that you can pull out or push in that basically meters how much fuel is going into the engine. And then your throttle is basically metering, kind of how much air or how much air fuel mixture is going in. And as you go up in altitude, you're still putting the same amount of fuel in your intake. But when the air density starts coming down, you're putting fewer air molecules per fuel molecule. So you have to be mindful of that. And you have to start, taking off with reduced mixture settings to get maximum power and stuff like that.
Interesting.
I was just going to call the FAA and tell them, hey, he passed his power plant. Right there with that answer. Nice job.
Winner.
Okay, excellent. Well, speaking of altitudes, and Brian Coleman, he also sent us some email feedback. He says, I was recently on a flight to Hawaii supporting my project, The Journey is the Reward, and while watching the flight map, I noticed something different. I was hoping you might be able to add your thoughts and answer this question as to what was going on. The altitude displayed on the map, okay, these are these displays, I guess, on your entertainment system, kept changing when we were in the cruise phase of flight. It would vary from 36,016 feet to 36,019 feet, and all numbers in between for about 10 minutes. Then from 36,019 to 36,042 feet, and then all numbers in between. And then it would creep up another 20 or so feet and do it again for another 10 minutes or so. I watched this happen for most of the flight, and we finally topped out at 36,356. Do you have any clue as to why this would happen? I know Captain Nick will say it's because I was on a Boeing 737, but I don't think that to be true. And then, so he
the
asks
pilots were asleep.
He asks these questions next. Shouldn't the autopilot have kept us more level? Could it have been from outside air pressure change? Were the pilots hand flying? No. Did the equipment need to be adjusted? That's what she said. Was it the variation in the ocean waves?
That's the one.
Yeah, he has a little smiley face there. I think he understands.
Yeah.
He knows that that's a dumb question. Just wonder. Oh, there. That's right. There's no dumb. No, there are dumb questions here, Liz. Just wondering, and even dumber answers.
Very true.
Just wondering what could have caused the erratic but constant creep in our altitude. What say we? Yeah, okay, Colonel Jeff, what do you think?
It's GPS. You're flying at a constant altimeter setting, 2992. The airplane maintains the same pressure altitude, but your actual height above the ground is changing. And the air show is what that thing is called, is running off your GPS system or your inertial nav system. That's where it's getting its height from. So it's going to vary.
Right. So that we call that what, the standard datum or datum plane.
Yes.
So when we go above, typically, I think in most places, what are you talking about? People walking back and forth from their seats to the lab and back. I think, thank you, Daniel. That's the actual real answer. No, that's not the answer. But it's a fun one. Yeah. So as you said, I think most places around the world, it's above 18,000 feet pressure altitude. Everybody sets a.
It's not most places. It's very few.
Oh, really? Okay. So you see how much international experience I have. So, but anyway, here in the U.S., I can talk for that or speak to that. Above 18,000 feet, we set in 2992 inches of mercury, or what was it, 1013?
Yep.
Hectopascals or whatever they call that. That weird stuff that you guys do over there.
It used to be millibars, now it's
millibars, and now it's
hectopascals.
hectopascals or pascals.
Yep.
But anyway, same thing. And then so everybody's all on the same page, so to speak. But as Jeff mentions, yeah, what you're seeing on that display is from the satellite system. So yeah, you're going to be actually, going kind of like that. In fact, I've seen even larger changes in displayed altitude than what you're talking about here. That was actually pretty tight tolerance, I think.
Yeah, our Airbuses, for example, if you were leveling off at an intermediate altitude, it would hold that very accurately. But once you got to your cruise altitude and you told the aircraft what the cruise altitude is going to be, it would let the aircraft creep up and down 50 feet. So the idea was that, it wouldn't drive the control surfaces and thrash the engines around trying to maintain exactly the right altitude, because that's inefficient. Much better to let it ride up and down a little bit because it makes smaller control movements, because that creates less drag. So they decided that they would let it float 50 feet high or 50 feet low, and then just adjust slowly back to your cruise altitude. So, which is perfectly acceptable when it comes to the limits of flying, because there's at least 1,000 feet between you. So plus or minus 50 feet is not a big factor.
Sometimes you'll get a pressure wave come through, and you'll feel the airplane move, and your altimeter will stay almost the same.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I don't think anything we've said disproves the flat Earth
no,
theory.
It's definitely flat.
Yeah,
it's just that the airplanes
absolutely.
aren't flying at a flat altitude.
Yeah. We don't go near the edge.
Right. The pressure does
good Lord,
change.
no.
That's like even flat earthers will acknowledge that, right?
Yep.
And if you fly off the edge, there's no pressure.
Good point.
No pressure. Don't fly off the edge.
Pressure. Yeah. All right. So Brian ends with, as always, thanks for such a great podcast, all the work you put into it. Okay. That's all Liz, he says. And thanks for building such a great community. We all appreciate you and the crew. Oh, and if I can, okay, one more last time here, Brian. We've already mentioned it twice now, I think. The podcast that he and Micah produce is called Journey. The Journey is the Reward.org. Remember .org, not com. Don't do com, even though there is a website, but it's not his and his podcast. Anyway, The Journey is the Reward.org, and this is Brian's project to fly the remaining 300,000 actual butt-in-seat miles to achieve lifetime United mileage plus 1K status. So again, Passenger Brian, thank you, and I hope we answered your question.
So he's going to be done next week, right? as much as he flies?
Maybe. I don't know. That's going to be a
Jeez.
tough thing to get, I think. More audio feedback. This time it is from Dave, and he says, I'm writing you today to forward an audio recording that I made back on September 9th, 2020. Totally forgot about this. It was almost 2 years ago. However, better late than never. Since this recording, I've completed my flight instructor rating, and I'm sitting in line to start at my local flight school. Thanks for all you do. So that deserves a round of applause.
Well done. Congratulations.
Good job, Dave. All right, so let's see what Dave says here in his audio feedback. Yep.
APG crew, this is Dave up at 6,000 feet in a Cessna 177 Cardinal over the Ottawa area. Just wanted to send a quick message to you guys to say thank you to each and every one of you for keeping me motivated. About a week ago, I passed my Group 1 IFR, which is in Canada, that is equivalent to your multi-engine IFR. I'm now a commercially rated and multi-engine instrument rated pilot. So I want to thank you for keeping me motivated. Today, I was actually just doing the last part of the commercial rating, which is a 300-mile cross-country, and decided to exercise my new instrument rating as well. So I've been having a lot of fun. I've been up for about 7 hours now and about to get back home. So just want to thank you all and keep doing what you're doing, because there's a lot of us that are silent that don't write in and don't send in voice messages very often, or if at all, but you're keeping us motivated along the way. So thank you very much, and keep it up, and keep the blue side up from Canada. Yeah.
Thank you, Dave. Wow, that was awesome. And I'm so glad that you stumbled upon this audio feedback that you recorded a couple of years ago. And because that's really motivational and inspirational to us as members of this APG crew doing the show every week. And again, congratulations to all those ratings and now your flight instructor rating. And you'll have to send us some more audio feedback to let us know how that goes and what it's like to be flying with those little young students out there trying to kill you. Oh, and the Canadians, that's even worse. Yeah, you're right, Liz.
Yeah, saying sorry all the time. Sorry.
Sorry, I tried to kill you. Anyway, isn't that nice? Thank you, Dave. Isn't that cool? I mean, that really does mean a lot to us to hear. We hear a lot of those kind of stories. A lot of the time, people just say, this is not to be shared on the show, but, this is how much, your show meant to me or means to me and others out there. And so it's just always something that we, you take a couple of steps back and take a deep breath and go, wow, I guess we should probably really think about what we're saying and maybe shoot for something above 50% accuracy. Nah, that'd be too hard.
That would be quite hard.
Yeah. That's what she said. All right. There's that 50% guarantee right there. Thank you, Liz. Okay, here's another one. It's one of our new patrons. He's only been a patron for, I think, maybe a month or two. Els Piloto. Dear APG crew, in 2020, I caught the bullet and lost my job as captain on the Airbus A380. During my time grounded, I found the APG podcast, which helped keep my spirits up and me in the aviation news loop while having a good chuckle here and there. However, I did have to skip the getting to know us part, not because I couldn't stand Captain Jeff singing, but because all of you
that's
still...
why I skip it.
Yeah, oh, shut up. I thought it was maybe because of Liz's singing, but I don't know. They don't hear it, yeah. Anyway, not because I couldn't stand Captain Jeff singing, but because all of you still got to fly, if not retired. I was surprised how that negatively affected me. But this is, of course, through no fault of the APG crew. Fast forward to today. I'm back in the seat and now listen to the entire podcast, thoroughly enjoying the banter and even Jeff singing. Wow. Wow. Naturally, yeah. I also have to pay special homage to Captain Nick's epic plane tales. May I suggest a tale covering the achievements and life of Beryl Markham, whom has been unjustly lost to the sands of time and needs to be celebrated for her intellect, bravery, and I guess, determination.
Determination. Why, did she have a very dramatic crash?
She must have. I don't know what her termination's all about. No, determination. As one of the first great aviators who, like Amelia, showed that women can also achieve aviation greatness even with the added headwinds of society's expectations of women in the 1930s. Yeah. Now, I'm no longer counting the penny. Oh, you want to say anything about that?
I took a look at that. I have covered the life of a lady bush pilot a little bit later than Beryl's, but if I can find out some more details about her life, because it looked like she did have a fascinating flying career, including a solo crossing of the Atlantic, first woman to do so, and the first pilot to cross from England to she actually crashed in not Newfoundland but somewhere nearby, so she made it across, but she was hoping to get all the way down to New York or somewhere. I think she got airborne from Abingdon, which is interesting. So she did some marvelous achievements. I would like to cover her. I will certainly take a look.
Okay, excellent. So now he continues. Now I am no longer counting the pennies. You have a new patron for the coffee fund.
Cheers.
Yeah. Well, it's a little bit of both. Yeah. Great stuff. Keep it up, and I'll continue to look forward to every new episode from one of your fans in the Great Sand Pit. And again, that's how does he call him? El Spalito. Oh, we do. Yeah, let's do that. Liz is telling me that we have a couple of items from him in addition to this. So skipping to 13 for those who have the song sheet. This is, let's see. Hello, APG crew. Back in, oh, wait. I have to read my own little note there and get ready for something. Hang on. Okay. I think I'm ready. Back in episode 528, you were discussing the hole caused by a tire deflation on an Emirates A380 on its way to Brisbane. As an A380 pilot, I thought I could wade in on this one. I suspect the tire sidewall was damaged by the bolt, which detached from the front nose gear, most likely somewhere just before liftoff, as weight was coming off of the tire in question. Okay, so we were wondering why they had that picture in the news article of the nose wheel strut piece thing. So I guess now it makes sense that it must have been the nut in that assembly coming off and then puncturing the sidewall of that main landing gear tire on the left side. As you guys correctly established, the bay is not pressurized. So as the aircraft climbed, the Delta P increased, leading to the eventual tire rupture at high altitude. Now that the tire's pressure was released into the bay, this created, he says, get ready again, Jeff. So I'm listening to him. Okay, I'm ready for a different one this time. Okay. Now that the tire's pressure was released into the bay, this created a large Delta P between the body landing gear bays and the rarefied outside air. The left and right bays do have gaps inside the fairing connecting them. Looking at the fairing that blew out, I noticed on walkarounds it's very thin. Its purpose is only for aerodynamics, whereas the landing gear doors are beefed up to withstand deploying into the 250-knot slipstream on retraction and extension of the gear. So naturally it would be this thin fairing that would blow out first, relieving the aircraft's sudden bloated feeling. Additionally, I've checked, and it is not possible to see the fairing from the cabin or use the taxi cam on the vertical stabilizer, so the crew would have been unaware of the damage. The only indications would have been a deflated tire on ECAM and the reported bang. So I support the decision to continue, and I'm sure they would have made that decision in concert with network control in terms of further breakup of the fairing. The horizontal stabilizer is high up and out of the way of danger. I also think that the crew did a great job and made a sound decision. If the flight did return, fuel dumping is not a requirement. The A380 has demonstrated autolands up to a max takeoff weight and does a fine job of it. The only reason why the A380 has the ability to dump fuel is to meet the one engine out go-around requirement of 2.5%. And he says, and you guys thought Miami Rick was the only one who liked the books. However, we may make use of the fuel jettison to avoid overheated brakes and melted fuse plugs after landing. Even then, we cannot dump from the 4 feed tanks, which can hold at least 27 tons each. Wow. Meaning we are likely significantly above the maximum landing weight. Regulations only state that we cannot plan to land overweight. As you know, after an overweight landing, engineers will do a set of checks to ensure no issues arise from the landing, and back service the aircraft will go. Oh, back in service the aircraft will go. Love the podcast and keep them coming. Your fan in the great sand pit. Yeah, I remember, I don't know how many, what did he say? What episode was that we were talking about that? 528. So that was a few ago. Not quite 10, but it was a little while back. But I do remember we were looking at that hole in that fairing, and we, as he said, we suspected correctly that area was not pressurized. Yeah. Or visible.
Yeah, I think we were debating the decision,
right,
and wondering how much the crew knew about it, and obviously were unable to find out a lot about the amount of damage. So, yeah, I think the decision was very good. Now, looking back at the full facts, thanks very much indeed. Thanks for taking the time to go back and wander into the cabin and have a peer down to see if you could see that bit of the airframe. That was interesting.
Yeah. And checking out that camera and the whole bit. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the cool thing about doing the show, is that we have so many listeners from so many different backgrounds, and they fly so many different types of airplanes out there that they don't hesitate to chime in and let us know. Yeah, keep us on our toes. Okay, yeah. Well, Nick, Liz is telling me that this next one is for you, number 14, right? Is that what you're talking about, Liz? Okay, again, is this from El Plato? Again, yeah, okay. So, hello, Jeff and APG crew, and then Nick, take over.
Yeah, this is where we fall out. No, really
oh, wait a minute. Wait. Okay, maybe we shouldn't read this one.
No, I think it's fair to remind everyone that I'm no longer current, and I have to rely on my memory to work all this stuff out. So it was regarding a very serious QNH incident, as altimeter pressure setting incident of an aircraft into Charles de Gaulle in Paris, 529. Sorry, I'm going to have to Sunday quarterback your comments, and Nick, that's me, not the other Nick. Regarding VOR DME approaches versus RNP approaches. What I said was, because we did a lot of altimeter checks in the old days, every mile on the DME, it would have been less likely to happen. But he quite correctly points out that the altimeter difference would have resulted in an erroneous descent path, regardless of whether you're doing an RNP approach or a VOR DME approach, which is actually, when I thought about it afterwards, is absolutely correct. So VOR DME would not have been any safer in this situation, and this is Mr. Sandpit speaking again, as the error was altitude, not position. VOR DME would have given the same erroneous descent path, like the RMP. DME height checks would also have appeared correct, and that was my error. This is because the altitude error was constant throughout the descent. The glide path is a pseudo one created supposedly using a correct altimeter setting, and we know in this case the altimeter setting was out by, what was it, 10 millibars?
Something like that. I don't remember exactly.
It was a lot.
A couple of 100 feet, 300 feet, something. Yeah, would have been about right. And they got down very low before they realized there was a problem. Not even the ground-based augmentation GBAS on a GLS approach would have helped, as the SMC, the flight management computed glide path in relation to the QNH altimeter setting would have been in error. If anything, RNPs are safer than VOR DME. I'm old school, so I don't know about that. But no, they probably are. Because they use a cross-check of GPS and IRS, which then the FMC produces as an estimated position of uncertainty. We used to fly those RMP approaches overlaid over an NDB or a VOR, which is even better in my mind, because then you've got all the information. But don't let me confuse the situation. This is monitored by the aircraft and guarantees position within 3 nautical miles or 1 nautical mile. Does he mean, yeah? Does he mean 0.3?
I think it means point.
0.1, yeah. I think you've put the decimal place in the wrong position, Mr. Sandpit. And you've made a critical error, which has completely ruined your argument. I'm joking.
On a regular GPS approach is 0.3.
Yeah, he's written 3 point, not 0.3.
Yeah. Yeah, Jeff doesn't see.
You can't see what he. Anyway,
he just put the decimal in the wrong place.
He's put the decimal place in the wrong place. A critical error which might have killed him. Any degradation. Sorry. Any degradation would trigger a warning to the crew during an RNP. VOR DME, you have to trust the VOR and DME are fully serviceable. Yes. In fact, on the 31st of March, 2003, a British Mediterranean A320 nearly impacted terrain at Addis Ababa twice due to a faulty VOR damaged by rainwater. Yeah, I do remember we actually covered that incident. Yeah, nasty. Yeah. The only way a height check would have raised suspicions is by using a glide path irradiated by an ILS. Keep the ILS.
Yes.
We like ILSs. Then there could have been a chance to pick up the error. But in my experience, most crews are pretty poor at performing height checks on ILSs. Well, they obviously don't have good trainers. That's all I can say. I've flown into cities where the temperature is pushing a plus 30 degrees centigrade, and this creates about a 20% underread in the altimeter. Yes, you're quite right. So a 1,500-foot height check in ISO temperatures would read about 1,250 feet on the ILS in these hot conditions. I've yet to fly with someone who's picked up the error and mentioned it or planned for it. Interesting. Personally, I'm really surprised the crew did not react to the quickly reducing height on the RA callouts. And like Nick, I found it very odd the autopilot was disconnected for the go-round. Maybe the captain had just come off the 737. Doesn't the 737 do automatic go-rounds?
Only if you have both a couple of dual autopilot approach.
Single autopilot, when you hit toga, it disconnects.
Okay. And you need to put $1 in the slot as well, don't you?
Yes.
For each go around? Yeah.
And pedal faster.
Excellent. This was a prime example. He says of Dr. Reason's Swiss cheese model, and we say the APG's Funyun model.
The Funyun effect.
Yes, the Funyun model. So I'm sorry, Swiss cheese model's out of date now.
Yeah, it's old school.
Layer after layer of safety penetrated. I say all those Funyuns lining up. If they had set just 1 millibar higher, which equals 28 feet, they would have impacted the ground. Wow, not. And it wouldn't have been on the runway, which is not good. Sorry to go all Miami Rick on you again. Yeah, this is your very last feedback you'll ever have with us, so make the best of it. But nevertheless, I thoroughly enjoyed being part of the APG community for as long as it lasted. Well, if I'm still part of the community, yes, this is more like it, yes. A little bit of kowtowing. And not excommunicated after this piece of feedback. Well, I'm afraid my very good friend Liz is going to make the final decision on that, and I can already see her giving a thumbs down.
He is a patron, Liz.
Exactly.
And he is in the highest. He is in the highest tier of patronage.
Oh, is he?
Yes.
Oh, damn. Okay. Fair enough.
We love you, as Piloto.
Yes, we do. Yes, we do. Good feedback, actually. And you've had a triple whammy tonight. So good job.
Yeah.
All the best and happy days aloft. Well, to those of us that fly. Again, from your fan in the Great Sandpit. So, yeah, have fun in the... If you're a fan in the Great Sandpit, doesn't it blow the sand in your eyes?
It makes a mess.
Yes, gets everywhere. Anyway, no, that's absolutely quite correct. Thank you for pointing that out. I would have lived in ignorance and happily lived in ignorance forever. Had
Thanks
you
for
not
spoiling
mentioned
it for me.
Yes, no, I'm going to have to sulk for the rest of the show.
No, please don't. I don't like it when you sulk.
Oh, brilliant. Good job. And thanks for that. You wouldn't be a trainer by any chance, would you?
So other Nicks.
Brilliant. Good feedback. Like that one.
Yeah.
So Nick, how familiar are you with WAS? The wide
With
area
WAS?
augmentation system? No.
Very familiar with the implementation of it of systems on airplanes. Not nearly as familiar with flying it.
I was just wondering whether this would have been a problem with WAS because it's ground based.
Right. Correct.
So would it have corrected for that, or with the glide slope? We just started using it. We're going to get ready to start using it here at my company. So I'm just curious. It brings us down to ILS minimums from sometimes lower.
I thought that because it's a ground-based system, I thought that might prevent this sort of a situation from occurring if you had the wrong altimeter setting. But I don't know enough about it myself.
If you had the wrong altimeter setting?
Yeah. Like, in other words, it kind of gives you kind of some of the advantages of an electronic ILS glide slope beam, I think.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right, but it's still based on
satellite.
Yeah, it's still based on the position of your airplane, right?
Mm-hmm.
The man, I don't even know it well enough to want to talk, but
All right. Yeah.
With regard to GA, right? Shooting LPV approaches versus shooting the old area navigation approaches with non-WAS. They get you the WAS upgraded the quality of the signal or upgraded the quality of the position feedback. But I don't know well enough how well the approach actually works to answer that.
So I think I might be confusing WAS with like what they have at Newark, GBAS, ground-based augmentation system that augments the existing global positioning system used in U.S. airspace.
I don't know that one.
Okay, what this one says is there's a question in here in Google. Is GBAS the same as Wide Area Augmentation System? They're both GPS augmentation systems. However, GBAS and WAS differ in approach and infrastructure, resulting in different capabilities. WAS uses a network of spatially separated reference stations to make multiple simultaneous measurements of GPS satellites. Okay, so I think that the GBAS is the one that actually has some kind of a ground-based navigation system that works in conjunction. I don't know. Maybe we'll throw the link, the Wikipedia link in the show notes if you feel like learning more. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Good point, Liz. She's saying if there are any experts out there that know all the little differences between them, and what the advantages are, and that sort of thing, that'd be very helpful. I-Haul boxes WAS is space-based wide area. Okay. And GBAS is sat signal ground corrected. Okay. Sounds to me like GBAS is a little bit better than just WAS. But I don't know. It was better. Oh, that's funny, Liz.
Yeah. Okay.
Number 8. Okay. Here we go. Jimmy. He says, Dear Captain Jeff, Captain Nick A, Captain Rick, Dr. Steph, Captain Nick C, and Liz. Woo! Got it all. It's a great pleasure for me to contact you all and provide a little piece of feedback from episode 528. about the TAP Airbus A330-900 departing Luanda. I've been an avid APG listener for some time now, and I can say that I am deeply infected with the APG virus. Sorry. In the beginning, when I started listening to the podcast, I thought I would not be able to endure the 3 hours the show normally takes. But when I got hit with the virus, and this seemed to numb me greatly and kept me from shortening
Steph
the
has
content.
engineered that virus very well, don't you think?
She has. And we're not supposed to release that information.
Yeah, you're not supposed to say that part.
Okay.
Well, I'll edit it in post.
Good.
An animal market in Charlotte. Too soon. Let's see. It kept me from shortening the contents, and I became a total enthusiast of it, especially he says pilot tales, but plane tales, and the getting to know us segment. I fly an A350 in the Middle East. Yep, the one where the paint.
Man.
The one where the paint is, well,
Oh, yeah, remember that, yeah.
Back on the issue, allow me to share some of the A350 features. The aircraft has a runway overrun warning, runway overrun protection, ROWROP system. I don't know if they say it like that, ROW/ROP system, combined with I would call it ROWROP. ROWROP. Combined with a brake, possible title, brake to vacate.
Is that Scooby-Doo?
Yeah, it sounded like Scooby-Doo, didn't it?
Ruh-roh.
Ruh-roh. Okay, so the ROW/ROP system combined with a brake to vacate BTV system, which gives various warnings to the crew if the runway is or becomes too short for landing or takeoff. That's great. That's really nice to have. Yeah, they needed that in Burbank, Liz says. Runway data comes from the airport navigation function, which contains a database of airports worldwide, usually all within the scope of operation. It also receives data from the Terrain Awareness System, TAWS, and inputs from IRSs for position, speed, and wind data during approach, as well as landing weight. For example, for landing, the system will project or calculate a stopping line on the runway after wind, temperature, and air pressure inputs are made on the FMS. After such data is received and runway state is given, dry, wet, contaminated, the Flight Warning System, FWS, will give warnings below 400 feet to the pilot, where the system now becomes dynamic, taking in consideration wind and descent path variations, making the stopping line variable as well. Warnings can be runway too short, 2 times, set max reverse, keep max reverse, brake, max braking, as well as runway condition degraded. If the braking system detects a different deceleration rate due to the runway being selected wet and itself detecting a contamination higher than expected, the BTV function, once a taxiway exit is selected by the crew, taking into account the stopping line with some marking for passenger comfort, will decelerate the aircraft to within 10 knots ground speed prior to taxiway exit at a rate of 0.2 G to a maximum of 0.35 G. During takeoff, the takeoff surveillance, a TOS function, checks the data inserted on the FMS and compares it with performance figures to make sure such data is consistent and compatible with the required data for takeoff. The FMS will compute then and compare the liftoff distance with the available runway length. Warnings if data is not consistent can then be takeoff runway too short, depending on whether the discrepancy detected at takeoff thrust. Oh, okay, I see one is in red and one's in amber, I guess, depending on whether discrepancy is detected at takeoff thrust application or when the takeoff configuration PB is pressed during taxi. Again, the FMS computes liftoff distance based on aircraft gross weight, V rotate, V2, flap setting, takeoff thrust, anti-ice setting, and the pack setting, as well as the altitude, outside air temperature, the last 2 provided by the ADIRS, and the runway slope. Other warnings can be, these are all, in yellow, orange, or caution kind of warnings. Takeoff speeds not inserted, takeoff speeds too low, takeoff V1, VR, V2 disagree, takeoff runway too short, check takeoff weight and takeoff data. Takeoff speed too low, check. Takeoff weight and takeoff data. In all, you can see that the integrated systems provide a lot of safety to the operation, but they also rely on the data of the ANF function, as well as proper data or data insertion. If the runway is NOTAMed, being shortened, for example, this has to be manually inserted on the ANF function, as it does not know or receive NOTAM data. I hope I was not too long or too technical on the feedback. The show was 3 hours anyways, but definitely wanted to share with the community for everybody's enhancing of A350 capabilities. I love flying it around the world. Many thanks for all the super and engaging topics. Best regards, and this is Jimmy R. Sanchez. Thank you.
That was brilliant. Because I had heard about this system and I knew it was very clever, but that is much more detailed and capable than I expected. So I'm fascinated by that. Thanks very much indeed, Jimmy. Appreciate that.
Yeah, pretty slick system, huh?
Well, you think of the number of incidents we cover, we regularly get aircraft overruns, aircraft making mistakes, turning the wrong way on the runway and trying to take off on the short bit rather than the long bit, all these sort of classic mistakes of inattention. If the aircraft can pick you up on that, that is just makes life so much safer.
I agree. All right. 9. This is from Kevin. Pardon me? Oh, okay. We've had this one for a while, says Liz. Hello, Captain Jeff and APG crew. Greeting from slightly north of Dana's old stomping grounds. Inquiring minds need to know if Captain Nick journeyed from his countryside estate to see this for himself, or did he dismiss it as it was a Boeing? I enjoyed listening to the Oshkosh episode. This means I've finally caught back up to your release schedule. Of course, having the last 2 episodes be sub 3 hours made it easier. Yeah, I did that just for you. Best wishes to the rest of the APG crew and to you enjoying the remainder of your vacation time and a safe return to the B717's left seat. Okay, yeah, we've had this for a while. And this is from Kevin St. John, a very, very long time listener going back almost as far as Jeff Fellmuth here to the Catholic pilot days.
Oh, good job.
Yeah.
Yeah, really.
Motorway drivers on the lookout for a Boeing 747 being driven up country. And there's a picture of it there on the video. Motorists in the UK have been keeping a lookout for a 747 fuselage that departed Cotswolds?
The Cotswolds, an area of the country.
Now I'm going to try this one. Gloucestershire.
That's not bad.
Okay. At around 9:30 a.m., heading towards the M5, which it traveled on for 50 miles. It then joined the M6, followed by the M60, eventually arriving at Barton Airport in Salford, Greater Manchester, at around 2:30. Police had to escort the abnormal load and warned motorists of potential delays. Gloucestershire police tweeted, "We're escorting an abnormal load from Kemble Airfield and on the M5 from 9:30 a.m. Thursday. The route the 5.8 meter wide aircraft fuselage will take," wow, yeah, takes up a lot of roadway, and I'm not going to go through all those routes. Motorists have been monitoring its progress and trying to catch a glimpse of the aircraft on the motorway. After all, it's not every day you get to see the plane on the motorway. Let's see. Now, in its new home up north, the plane is to become a tourist attraction. And airline memorabilia company Doors 2 Manual plan to use it as a backdrop for weddings and conferences, as well as for educational purposes. The website for, quote, the deck has, that's deck, D-E-C-K, has, as it has been dubbed, reads, "Welcome to the deck, a Boeing 747 experience brought to you by Doors 2 Manual."
No wonder they were using it for weddings.
That was a different website, I think you're thinking of.
Yeah.
What is that weird noise I'm hearing? Jeff, say something.
Me?
Yeah. You need to unplug your USB mic and then plug it back in. I think you're having USB issues. Yeah, Liz is saying that
There we go.
it looks like the way they're towing it backwards on the highway. It looks like if you just happen to look up and you haven't been paying attention, it looks like the airplane's coming right at you. Say something, Jeff Felmuth?
I'm still talking.
Okay, good.
Yeah, that's good.
That fixed
Might
it.
have been the air conditioner over my head.
No, it was like a definite like robot sound when you talked. Yeah. So let's see. Where was I? We are working hard behind the scenes to save the cockpit and top deck of an ex-British Airways Boeing 747-436, Golf Bravo Yankee Golf Alpha, and rehome her at Manchester City Airport to be preserved and enjoyed by many for years to come. Doors to manual save the plane from the scrap heap, and the co-founder of the company, Drew Hanna, said doing so was the biggest thrill. According to the Manchester Evening News, he said, "This has been a dream of ours for a long, long time, and we're so excited to be finally getting ready for the 747's final journey to our hangar." I don't think many of us will have witnessed a Boeing 747 driving up the motorway before, so it's set to be a sight many families and flight fanatics will never forget. We've been able to build doors to manual into one of the world's leading suppliers of airline memorabilia and parts. Now being able to salvage such a significant part of an iconic aircraft is our biggest thrill so far. Very cool. Thank you.
He wanted to know if I journeyed up to watch some bit of a broken old 747 drift by. And the answer was
yes.
No. I can go to most airports and see broken 747s fly by.
Oh,
was it on FlightAware? Did you follow it on FlightAware?
Was it on FlightAware? Don't think it got high enough.
I am offended at Airline Pilot Guide.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, he would be saying that if Rick were here, I think, for sure. 10. Marius. Just some quick feedback for episode 530. You were talking about the roles of the captains and first officers and mentioned that in your airline, a captain normally can't fly from the right side. In my airline, in Norway, captains can fly from both sides. I think that's the norm for most airlines in Norway, maybe Europe as well. At one of our sim rides each year, we have something called right-hand seat qualification. We will then switch seats, and the captain will be trained in the right seat doing different maneuvers, procedures, emergencies. So if there's a flight that is missing an FO and there are no FOs on standby, they can also use a captain. By the way, I don't know if you use the term standby over there. Yeah, we do. It means we are not scheduled for any flying, but they will call you if you're needed. I think at my airline, we call it reserve.
Yeah.
In that case, we have 90 minutes or more to get to the airport. And even though I don't think it's like a specific rule at Acme, I think it's generally accepted like 120 minutes, 2 hours response, not 90. If you don't get a call, it will almost be like a day off, but I can be too far from home. I can't be too far from home in case they call me. Yeah, that's the restriction. You have kind of a tight leash. Let's see. Also, a quick note about salary. The norm in Norway, and also quite a few places in Europe, is that we are paid a fixed salary depending on your positions, seniority, and if you're working full-time or part-time. So I will get paid the same regardless of how many hours I fly, plus per diem. But we don't have the ability to bid trips. We fly what the company schedules for us. Although I have some flexibility in that I can block 7 days a month. Take care and keep up the great work. Best regards, Marius. That's very similar, I think, Nick, Captain Nick, to the system that you were flying under for Virgin, right?
Yes. It didn't matter what aircraft type you flew. You got paid whether you were a captain or a first officer, and the similar sort of time in rank and part-time, full-time, that sort of thing. But I mean, every airline has negotiated its own contracts with its employees, so you'll find variations almost guaranteed between all the European as well as all the American airlines. Each airline does it slightly differently, but they often follow the same sort of trend.
I seem to recall that you had a little bit of a choice for picking certain trips, didn't you?
Most certainly, yeah. That was dependent on seniority, but in a 3-month rota. So, once every 3 months, my seniority counted within my group, and my group was the top group. So I had a very good chance of getting what I chose. But the very next month, I'd be at the bottom, and 2/3 of the company, regardless of my seniority, would be above me in bidding rights. So that's the kind of way we worked. But other airlines do it different ways, and even we negotiated different methods during my time with the company. It changed every few years.
And in the charter, it's more, we all get paid the same. It's more based on, we have different tiers based on how many hours you have. And I just bid for days on. I'm on a 8 on, 6 off schedule. So I got to work every Tuesday, come home every Tuesday.
Oh, okay.
And it's a year-long schedule. So we'll bid again right after Christmas.
Wow. You have to really kind of almost
you have to have your life planned out,
clairvoyant to know what's going to happen in your life.
I don't know what I'm doing next week, let alone for the rest of the year.
Right.
Well, when they tell you we want to see you again in 6 months, you can actually make the appointment.
Well, yeah, that's true. We can't do it with the system that we're flying, but as you know, because that's very similar to the same thing at American, right?
Yeah.
All right. Let me go over here to 11. And Peter sent this in. Hi, Captain Jeff. Came across this video regarding the above subject, which is Delta, Boeing, and Airbus. I thought you might find it interesting. And the title of this video is Delta just ordered the 797. Sort of. Okay. I'm only going to play a little bit of it because it's kind of a long video and, it's a long show and we don't have time. But it'll be a little teaser.
Delta is the world's second largest airline, both in terms of fleet size and in the number of passengers it carries. So anytime it places an order for a new plane, it's bound to make some noise. Its recent order for an absolute boatload of 737 MAX 10s is no exception, as it's the largest order Boeing's received in years. But more important than the deal's size is the impact it will have on both Boeing and Delta's future. Because, below the surface, this deal is an implicit endorsement of the yet-to-be-launched 797, and it shows Delta will be the very first in line once it's available. Let me explain.
Okay, this is Kobe E-planes, and I'm going to go ahead and...
I think that's an X.
Before
I think
hopping
the
into
wing makes an X, so it's X.
Oh, I'm sorry, X-planes. My bad. Well, what is it again?
Kobe explains.
Kobe explains. Oh.
I think it's a play on words.
It is a play on words. Thank you. Thank you, Nick. Anyway, so that's just a teaser of this video that talks about the implication that Delta will be aligned or first in line or one of the first in line for potentially the new Boeing 797 if it ever comes to fruition. So we'll have a link to that video in. He's going to explain it. Yes, Kobe explains it all. Thank you.
I watched it with interest because it's something that our company used to regularly do. Now, I'm not suggesting that this is what's happening here because obviously Delta have put in an order for these 737s. But whenever we came up to acquiring some new aircraft, and we were a big Airbus customer, we would always show enormous interest in, say, the 777s or some new 747s or whatever, really just to try and drive the price of the Airbuses down, to have it as a negotiating tool. Because if you just pitch up to Airbus, I think the company felt that if they didn't have some alternative to use as a stick to beat Airbus with, they'd have to pay top dollar for the aircraft, and they didn't want to do that. So they used to go to Airbus and go, well, if you don't drop the price, we'll go to Boeing and buy all these second-hand 777s, which we can get for tuppence because no one wants them. Airbus would go, oh, it's all right, then we'll drop the price a little bit. That was my thought anyway. And I wonder whether this is a negotiating tactic. So they're looking to, show great interest in an aircraft to perhaps ensure that they get the best possible price for Airbus. And if they don't like the price, then they've got these 797s as a fallback. So, that's just my thought on it.
A little gamesmanship.
Yeah,
I'm sure. Yeah. But the companies that sell these things obviously know that that's going on too, right?
Well, I don't think they're stupid.
Ahead of United and American when boom doesn't work.
Yeah. Delta has yet to announce its order of the boom supersonic jets. But yeah, let's do that. Control room's directing me now to head over to, speaking of boom, we have some feedback from Mazoots. American becomes the third airline to place an order for boom supersonic jets. Hello all, hope you're keeping well. Just a very brief message after I stumbled across this story from theguardian.com. Captain Jeff tempted to get a new rating? Or perhaps even enough to tempt Captain Nick out of retirement? Best wishes, Mazoots.
I have to fix my heart first.
I'd say, no and no. American becomes third airline. Okay, we talked about that. Boom's overtures promising much shorter flight times are expected to carry first passengers in 2029. And we're showing on the video an artist's impression of Boom's supersonic jet overture. Liz is asking, do they not have an engine specifically designed and selected for this? I don't know. I don't know all the details, Liz, regarding what might be powering this thing. The article talks about commercial supersonic transatlantic travel is on course to roar back almost 20 years after Concorde was decommissioned. American Airlines on Tuesday agreed to buy up to 20 ultra-fast jets from the aviation startup Boom Supersonic with an option to purchase 40 more. Yeah, main man Micah in our live audience is being a bit cynical. I ordered a couple dozen Boom Supersonic jets as well. I think I have just as good a shot of getting them as does United and American. Well, I don't know if you have the same cachet, Micah, or cash in the wallet. But I understand what you're saying. I have to admit I'm a little skeptical about all this as well. But this article goes on to say the Overture jets, which promise speeds of up to Mach 1.7 over water, twice the speed of today's fastest commercial aircraft, though below Concorde's top speed, Mach 2.04, are expected to roll off the production line from 2025 and carry the first passengers in 2029. So the American, the third airline after United, which ordered 15 last year, and Virgin Atlantic, which reached a deal in 2016. Blake Scholl, the founder and chief executive of Boom, said, "We believe Overture can help American deepen its competitive advantage on network loyalty and overall airline preference through the paradigm-changing benefits of cutting travel times in half." Yeah, the Overture will carry fewer passengers than subsonic passenger jets with 65 to 88 seats, less capacity than Concorde had, which will initially be priced at business class rates. What do you think about this, Jeff Felmuth, your former airline, American, putting in this order?
All I can think about is last week's plane tale about Tulsa. And
the boom. Yeah. Well, no, that wasn't a plane tale, was it? No, that was just that was a news item, I think, or a piece of feedback that somebody had done. Yeah, the back in the 60s when the FAA was doing. Yeah, Robert sent that in. Robert in Tucker, Georgia.
Because I know NASA's working on ways to, stifle the boom or make it more just a low rumble.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're doing Mach almost 2, it's more like a crack. I mean, it's loud, and it's going to go a long way. And the whole problem with Concorde is it couldn't fly over the land masses.
Mm-hmm.
It was great between London and the East Coast, but it was built to do things like London to LA and Australia back to the West Coast,
Mm-hmm.
And going over land, it couldn't do. So unless they solve that problem in a big way, I don't think it's going to happen. And they don't have motors for it yet. So,
Yeah.
only 6 years out or 7 years out, and they don't have motors for it. Yeah, I don't think that's going to work.
A wee bit optimistic, perhaps.
Yeah. But again, we didn't think there'd be electric airplanes.
Yeah.
We didn't think the battery technology would ever come around. So we'll see.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we will see. I mean, I'm all for being optimistic about all this stuff, but then my skeptical self kind of goes.
This kind of reminds me, and I will preface this by saying this is not a political statement. I'm just using a fact. But here in the United States, California has it's been highly publicized that California has put in place a framework for legislation to ban gasoline-powered cars by like 2035.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that is a maybe a good goal to have, and I think that a lot of people got excited about that, but there are just so many technical hurdles to getting to that point. With the whole spectrum of the system, right? It's not just like having the cars that can do it, but then you got to have all the charging apparatus in place. You got to have the big thing in California is the electrical infrastructure.
Oh, I know.
They do not have to support the existing.
They already have rolling, blackouts or brownouts or whatever they call them on the current infrastructure.
Yeah. And so I guess this, my point was just that this looks very similar to me, right? Like it's a kind of a pie in the sky thing. It looks really great, and a lot of people can get excited about it. But there are so many technical hurdles that Boom still needs to clear before it can really even be started thinking about as a reality. Like Jeff said, the engines, they haven't built an airplane, let alone flown an airplane. So yeah, I think it's more just like a marketing ploy to get people excited.
Yeah, just like a feel good. We're all for this, supersonic technology, but we probably have no confidence that we'll ever have to pay a dime because it's never going to happen.
Yeah.
I haul boxes. This is good. Under speed, under capacity, underpowered, and perhaps over budget. It's got to be a winner. If it were a government contract, for sure. Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it'd be great to see supersonic jets flying again. Do I have any desire to get a type rating on it? Nope. Not at all. Maybe fly it if it ever materializes. Yeah, supersonic RV. No, I want to enjoy the journey, not get to where I'm, the journey is the destination. What? Okay.
Do you know how many times you've been supersonic? Like, did it have, like, is there just a handful of times that you know, or were you flying the 38 enough that you were going?
No, I think on purpose only one time. And because that was the only airplane, the T-38 was the only airplane that I personally flew that he could, safely go supersonic. Just barely supersonic too. What was it, Jeff? Like 1.2, I think was a max on that.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah.
And it took a lot to get there.
Yeah. It wasn't like the, the F-15 or the F-18.
I was going to say, I assume Jeff, I assume you did it a lot more.
Yeah, and it's not a big deal. I mean, people go, well, how fast did the airplane go? Well, on paper it does 2.5, but that's not the point.
Yeah.
It's not about 1.5 is about the fastest I've ever been.
Okay.
I think the weirdest thing is that because you're going faster than the speed of sound, when you say something, you can't hear it because it's like already you're way ahead of it. You can't. Wait a minute. Doesn't that work like that?
Yeah, all the time. Yeah, and then but it catches up with you as soon as you slow down, all those words catch up with you, and you get deafened.
Quit yelling at me.
Absolutely. Look, I was just going to say, just for a moment, you guys over there in the States build some of the most beautiful and fastest military airplanes in the world. How come you couldn't sit down if you wanted to and build a supersonic airliner? I mean, you're not selling me your aviation industry very well, because we know you can do it if you paint it green or gray. Why can't you do it if you paint it white?
If you make it a military project, that'll happen.
Yeah, I think it's just the color
what to do with.
It's just a color. Yeah.
Color
Well,
of money
it's
thing.
it's the same aviation companies that are doing this, though. Oh, well.
I don't know.
Yes.
So
No, it hits the back seater doing
So is that
whatever
what he's-
speed you are. So you let one loose and it hits him doing about 1.5. It could kill him.
Yeah, really.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. All right. No, I think I want to go to 17, Liz. I want to make sure that we talk about this one. Okay.
yeah.
Dominic sent this in. Kind of crazy. Hi, Liz and the APG crew. This is interesting. We've heard of road rage and air rage, but air sea rage is new to me. This video has been doing the rounds on social media showing a seaplane landing in Halibut Cove. Actually, it doesn't show the seaplane landing. It's in Halibut Cove in Alaska, taxiing, and it's being harassed and eventually damaged by a boat. Apparently, the lady driving the boat owns a nearby restaurant and isn't a fan of seaplanes landing in the cove. And that's the lady right there. She is the owner of the Sultry restaurant in Halibut Cove. Well, let me show you a little video here of what happened and why that. Yeah, there. Well, this one actually doesn't have the language. The other one does. So here, this is a local news outlet reporting, and here we go.
Eric Lee was taxiing through Halibut Cove, preparing to take off for a flight seeing trip with 7 passengers on board when he spotted an aluminum boat approaching him. This is video Lee shot from inside his plane.
The aluminum boat was coming toward me. I thought they were trying to get around me at first. And then they started weaving back and forth fairly close to the aircraft.
Lee said the narrow cove made it difficult to maneuver away from the boat, and he worried what would happen if it were to hit his plane.
My concern level was high because it appeared to be within inches, but more than likely within feet of our wings. And at those speeds hit our wing, I just assumed that it was going to be a catastrophe and we would have to evacuate.
But Lee said safely evacuating 7 passengers in the middle of the cove raised even more concerns.
If the boat did actually hit me, how was I going to get them to get out of the aircraft and to safety? Because the tide runs through there pretty fast and sometimes creates a pretty strong current. And it's fairly cold water, and of course the sides of the bay are fairly rocky too. So it would have been a tough maneuver if I had to do that.
Fortunately, Lee didn't have to. He says a second boat appeared, urging the woman, who he identified as a local business owner, to stop what she was doing, which she eventually did. Lee was able to get around her boat and safely take off for the flight seeing trip.
So I'm wondering if they ate at that restaurant and they didn't leave a tip or something. I don't know. It's kind of weird.
It gives them a lousy review.
Yeah. Here's a view from the shore.
She's not messing about. That's close.
She's lost it. Somebody's got to fucking do something.
Apparently she has a reputation being a little crazy.
Well, it's a great way to get advertising for your restaurant, isn't it?
Mm-hmm. Look at the boat's going around in circles around the seaplane. Pretty close, I have to say. And then just the waves that it's creating. Really?
Yeah.
Liz says that she thinks you can hear the prop hitting the waves. Yeah. All right, so a couple of different clips here. Oh, that's when she was really close.
Whoa. Yeah.
Look at that. That's just unsafe in the least. All right, let me read a little bit more from the story here. Let's see. Apparently, the lady driving the boat owns a nearby restaurant. We talked about that. And isn't a fan of seaplanes landing in the cove. Let's see. I haven't seen any official news reports yet, but apparently she's been charged with the event has been reported to the FAA. And so there you have it. Things are not peaceful in Halibut Cove.
FAA or Coast Guard?
What's that?
FAA or
as far as well, yeah, I don't know.
They're
Maybe
still
both
arguing over
agencies.
jurisdiction.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. Something else. I thought it
Now,
was pretty crazy.
Alaska is famous cowboy estate, yeah?
Oh, yeah.
So
whoops.
Yeehaw!
Yeah, I thought I could hear her shouting that as she drove by. Yeah.
It's actually pretty well known that Alaska is even kind of regulated a little bit differently when it comes to how they maintain and modify their airplanes. They're generally given a little more leeway up there because I guess travel by small airplane is so critical, and they need to have the capability to get places. It's fairly common knowledge that it's easier to get stuff like field approvals or STCs approved up there versus down here in some of the more bureaucratic areas of our country.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Oh, I guess I should correct myself. It says state troopers are actively investigating the incident, as well as the U.S. Coast Guard.
Hmm.
What's
So,
that?
wouldn't happen in Canada, would it, Liz?
No, jealous of that other beaver on the territory? Wow, that's iHaul Boxes made that comment. That's interesting.
Generally, when you have a showdown between two craft that are going, less than 20 miles an hour, you'd think it would be minimally impactful.
Mm-hmm.
But from the boat standpoint, when you're fiddling about with a big prop attached to a 450 horsepower engine, it seems like you could make a mistake and really end your day poorly. And then, like he said, from the airplane's perspective, water doesn't have to be very deep to make it very difficult to get out of an airplane when it goes down into water. So it could have been a bad situation for both of
There's
them.
no real way to stop those things. I mean, it's got floats, so
Right,
there's no brakes.
Yeah.
Correct. Yeah.
His maneuverability is like limited.
Yeah, when I was looking at the view from the cockpit of the airplane when that boat was going across, I'm thinking, how do what do you do? You're just going and hope that it doesn't hit.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah.
Horrible. All right. How about 12, Liz? Okay. Rod sent this in. He says, Lufthansa emergency, ... or not. And this is a YouTube video from Real ATC Communications. So here we go. Ooh, nice effect. Okay, a little bit of pre-roll here. Video based on ATC Communications. Oh, do I have to stop this and read it? Lufthansa Boeing 747-800 registration Delta Alpha Bravo Yankee Oscar performing flight 401 from New York, JFK to Frankfurt, Maine, Germany, with 127 passengers, was climbing through flight level 200 out of New York when the crew requested to level off due to an engine problem, but to continue the departure route. The crew subsequently advised they wouldn't cross the Atlantic and some time later decided to return to JFK. The crew advised no assistance was needed. When the crew checked in with Tower, Tower advised emergency vehicles were on standby. The crew responded that the services were not needed. The aircraft landed safely on runway 4 left and taxied to the apron. All right, so we'll resume play of this video. This happened in 2018, in February of 2018. And here we go. Should hear some ATC now.
Lufthansa 401 Heavy, you can reduce your speed now to 165 if you'd like, and turn right 320.
Running 320, Lufthansa 401, and actually we're not in an emergency, just for information.
Alright, roger that, then airspeed is your discretion.
You're not emergency, correct?
Oh, you're not an emergency?
Negative, no, we have an engine failure, but not an emergency.
Oh, not an emergency. Okay, just so an engine failure, but you're not an emergency. Are you overweight landing, they want to know?
Not at all. No, not even that.
Not even that.
No. Otherwise, we could have called you.
Oh, yeah, no, it's all right. Either way, you're going to get in a timely manner. So how about you turn right 010, general localizer 4 left.
All right,
love this
turn
controller.
localizer 4 left, 401.
I know that voice.
Not surprised.
Envoy 3818, reduce speed 180.
180, Envoy 3818.
401 confirm, we may descend to 2.
Nope, I can't drop it at 2 for right now. I got traffic 2 o'clock
you're
there in about 2
not
miles,
an emergency.
2,000 feet. Heavy Boeing 747.
But if you were an emergency, we probably could.
Yeah, with no problem.
Confirm we can descend now.
No.
Nope, you cannot descend now, sir.
401, all right.
Thank you.
I love it.
Sorry.
No worries.
Would you like to declare an emergency now?
Lufthansa 401 Heavy, contact Kenny Tower 123.9.
23941, bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Kennedy, Lufthansa 401.
Lufthansa 401 Heavy, Kenny Tower 106011, runway 4 left, clear to land.
401, clear to land, go for it.
And the emergency equipment is standing by.
Uh-oh.
I'll be doing media deck.
Will not need the equipment.
Okay, that was it. Interesting exchange, and yeah. I mean, I can kind of see the point of the Lufthansa pilot. So we got 4 engines. We only lost 1. So we're okay. It's not an emergency. Yep. I don't know. Do you think part of this might be the different way that we approach what we call things like this going on? Like, here in the U.S., we don't have pan. We just have, we're declaring an emergency or nothing. And maybe that's why the controllers were kind of like, what, really? You're not an emergency? You lost an engine, but you're not an emergency? Whereas maybe they probably wanted to have priority handling, but not like, emergency vehicles standing by and that kind of thing. I mean, I kind of get maybe there's like a middle ground in there somewhere. I don't know.
The way I always used to treat it was, you got 4 engines. Okay, so you lose one, you still got 3. But the safety factor you had from 4 engines is now no longer there. Because if you lose one more, you're now really in a difficult situation. A 2-engine approach, even in a 747, certainly in an A340, particularly if they were failed on one side, requires a lot of skill from the pilots. A twin engine committal height of 500 feet. You can't go around below 500 feet. You've done 2 hydraulic systems, which limits your controllability, what you've got available. There are lots of factors. Half your electric system has now fallen over, etc. So I just cannot see the point of not declaring an emergency. What are they? It's like it's bravado. It's what is the big thing? What's wrong with declaring an emergency? You lost an engine. Yeah, so you might have still a lot of redundancy, but you're not certainly in the situation that the aircraft designer imagined when he thought you'd be flying around the world, and you're not good enough to cross the Atlantic. So you're still not as safe as you were. Just accept it. Just. Be a gentleman, say, yeah, thanks very much. Very kind of you to put that on. Wasn't really necessary, but I don't care. I don't see this pedantic reason for, insisting that they're not an emergency. If they stand all that gear down and then you have something else happen, you suddenly need to go, oh, no, excuse me, no, I am in emergency. And they go, well, I'm sorry, mate. They've all gone home. I just don't see the point. But there you go. That's just
it almost seemed to me. I sensed that it wasn't necessarily the bravado of the thing. It was almost like he didn't want to have an emergency declared because he thought that it was going to be time consuming and reports and all that kind of stuff.
He's going to have to do that anyways. He's had an engine failure. He's going to have to raise a safety report. He's going to have to do all the paperwork. And the fact that he didn't put out. And in fact, his safety department might well be on the phone going, why the hell didn't you raise an emergency?
Yeah.
Why did you, try and get rid of the safety services that could have been made available?
Right.
Because you were no longer as safe as you were. I don't know.
I don't know. It's almost like he was trying to prove a point of some sort,
Yeah,
which
it
we
was
really
like
don't
that.
agree with.
Yeah, I don't understand that.
Yeah.
Air traffic control always has the option to declare the emergency for you.
Yes, exactly. That's something he may not have realized.
The argument is moot. He lost.
Well, I bet that, I guarantee
Yes,
that
good.
emergency equipment was there.
Oh, for sure. All the lights flashing and everything. I mean, I sometimes used to despair because I didn't want my passengers, as we taxied off the runway with a minor problem, wondering why the hell they're being followed by a fleet of fire engines. And you'd be going, oh, for heaven's sake, now I've got to make a PA explaining why all these bloody fire engines are following us across the airport. I used to say, someone's had a birthday and we're just putting on some special lights for them. I'm joking. I am joking. Seriously, but, embarrassing sometimes.
We don't use pan in this country. I used it once, and it's like I kind of got this pregnant pause. Like, what the hell is that?
What is he saying? I don't know.
Pan. Nobody knew what I was talking about. It was
Read the ICAO Book of the Air.
ICAO?
Anyway.
What's that?
Yeah. No, we're America. America. Yeah.
Yeehaw.
Come on, man.
So
European pilots. Nick. Just so we're on the same page, I agree with you. We're cowboys over here. But the impetus of this whole story was European pilots.
Yeah. Okay, we're going to end it with this. We need to end it on a funny, happy note. Larry, the geezer in Tulsa, Oklahoma, said, he heard about my future in full-time RV living, and he said, "Hey, I'm thinking this might fill the bill for you, Jeff." It says it's a
beautiful
a Volkswagen bus, a beautiful one, kind of on the top of like a pontoon boat.
Got split screen, the whole 9 yards. It's a good one.
And it says, "If anyone needs me, I'm going to be living in a van down on the river." Not down by the river, but down on the river, because you're going to be cruising around on it. That's beautiful, isn't it? I'd love to have something like that. That's cool. All right.
Absolutely.
I'm going to see Larry, next month. The 19th, I'm laying over in Tulsa. If any of you out there listening are in the area, please be in tune. Follow us on social media and that kind of thing, and listen to us on the show when I give you more information about where we're going to be for the meetup. But it's definitely going to be one. Sean King and his wife, and also Larry Geezer and Josh, who sent us some video feedback, which is just awesome, and I can't wait to share that with you on the next show. iHaul Boxes says, "I can see Jeff circling beavers in this." You mean the airplane, of course, on floats, right? Okay, yeah. Anyway, very funny. And speaking of very funny, do we have time? We have time for one more, don't we? Okay, let's do that. That last one that somebody named Captain Jeff sent in. I think I have it in the slides, don't I, Liz? The Instagram.
Yeah, it's at the very bottom.
Okay, cool. I think I heard about this on PTUK. They were talking about Dublin's new runway, and Pilot Pip, Plane Safety Podcast, tweeted this, but it is an Instagram. Let me read this to you. And I laughed out loud. I mean, literally laughed out loud. This is so funny. Whispers News. Dublin's new runway saw its first successful takeoff today as a Ryanair flight took to the sky from the 320 million, is that euros? 320 million euro stretch of tarmac, just as another Ryanair pilot prepared to wallop his plane and passengers into it like it owed him money. Ryanair E34200, you are cleared to land on the new runway. Now, we do remind you, it's a new runway, so please don't do one of your usual slam-bang jobs, pleaded air traffic controllers from the tower today as the flight from Lanzarote approached?
Lanzarote.
I knew I'd get that wrong. The pleas went unheeded by Captain Eamon, the filling cracker, Devlin. So Eamon, the filling cracker, Devlin, eyeballed his approach to the new north runway, getting ready to guide his plane down gently until it was 3 feet off the tarmac and then just smash it into the ground as hard as he could. F your new runway, laughed an unhinged Devlin as his wheels slapped the runway like it had said something bad about his mother. Boom, textbook, play the effing trombones, he added as bone-shaken passengers comforted each other with hugs and assurances that it was all over now, while their flight taxied over to the terminal. WWN reached out to Ryanair in a bid to learn why they don't seem to have a single pilot that can land a plane without violence, but we are yet to receive a reply.
Excellent. Excellent.
Yeah, all Navy pilots, I think.
That's it.
Yeah. Cool.
Very sensible.
Anyway, I thought that was pretty funny. Tickled my funny bone. Anyway, sorry about the language. Okay. Well, we got a huge amount of feedback out of the way, and Liz is congratulating us for a job well done in that. And we have more feedback for you and news for sure on our next episode sometime next week. In the meantime, though, we're going to remind you that we do have a website, airlinepilotguy.com, where it has all kinds of good stuff. Just check it out, airlinepilotguy.com. Sorry, Nick Camacho, I haven't updated the site yet with your new information and such, but we'll get to it eventually. And, yeah.
You'll do it in post.
Yeah, we'll do it in post. And we also would like to let you know that we are on social media, or what I like to call the social meds. And who wants to volunteer to tell everybody about where they can find us on the social medias?
I can do that. On
Okay.
Facebook, it's Airline Pilot Guy. On Twitter, it's at APG Crew. And on Instagram, it's also APG Crew.
It is. It is
Yeah.
APG Crew on Instagram as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. And we are also, as you well know, on a quasi-social media kind of a platform here. And let's see if the guy that manages this, the whole thing. No, I'm not alone in the house. Hey, hello. Hello, can you tell us about Slack?
Okay, but I'm dripping wet.
It's okay. We're used to it. Come on over here and tell us about Slack.
APG listeners, please join us on our Slack team. Slack is a communication, coordination, and sharing platform that works on your mobile, laptop, or browser. On Slack, we share news and ideas, we suggest episode and plain tales topics, we plan events and meetups. To get into the Slack team, please email me at slack@airlinepilotguy.com. That's SLACK, Sierra Lima Alpha Charlie Kilo at airlinepilotguy.com, or send me a tweet with your preferred email address to @Hillel, and I'll send you an invitation. That's Hillel, spelled Hotel India 11 Echo 1, and see you in Slack.
Thank you very much, Hillel, as always. And close the door.
Oh yeah! Delta P!
I guess he was excited about our earlier discussion of Delta P. Yeah. Yeah. And thank you, Jeff, for joining us and adding your expertise in regard to mostly the 737 stuff, but also the other fighter-related items. It was nice having you on with us today.
Thanks for having me on. Appreciate it.
All right. And then, of course, also we want to thank the lady that's responsible for all the work behind the scenes, making us look good. Thank you, Liz.
My pleasure.
All right. And with that, we're going to go ahead and bid you adieu and say, wishing you all clear skies, unlimited visibilities. Talons, Douglas.
See you all next time.
Jeff, Nick.
Okay.
Hey, everybody.
All right. Wow. That was a mess.
Yeah.
Do you want to do it again?
I think it was salvageable until
Okay.
Captain Nick, whatever.
Yeah, let's do
whatever happened with Captain
Okay, so Nick, you're going to go first, and then Captain Nick, then Nick Camacho, then Liz, and then Jeff. How's that?
Yep,
okay.
that's good.
Here we go. All right. Wishing you clear skies, unlimited visibility, and tailwinds. Take care, and God bless.
Bye, everybody. Nick's next.
See y'all next time.
Bye, everybody.
See y'all later.
That was worse.
Maybe we should just forget that whole part of it.
Just cut us all out, Jeff. Just have your concise departure greeting.
That's it.
Have that be it.
You know, we're upping our standards here at APG. Up yours.
I like it.
Let's end it with that. All right. I'm going to
Okay,
stop
so
the recording.
possible titles. I've got a few, and some of these came from the chat room. Thank you.
Okay.
Boat versus Beaver.
Yep.
Okay.
Jeff, Nick. I don't know how you do that, but
Jeff, Nick.
The rote runway system. Rote runway system. And
Yeah.
Nick stands corrected because you did stand corrected there, Nick.
Ooh.
Roll.
Yeah, I'm not mentioning that again, so you can just cross that one off your list.
That would make the cut.
Aw. I like that one.
I
He's
will-
actually writing these things
I
down.
like runway system, actually.
We could have Jeff circles a beaver, and have Larry's picture there.
Mm-hmm.
Jeff
with a
chases beaver.
Yeah, just have a beaver in front of the of that vessel.
Too bad you can't do the
I'm
four
sure
motors
Nick
on the back, and then you could just have three running.
Yeah.
I'm sure Nick will find something to
That's
work
a
with
little
there.
esoteric there,
Nice
I
and
think.
embarrassing.
Do like it though.
I was going to be embarrassing, but it won't embarrass me.
Yeah, right.
That's why he takes the cover art. so he can control
Yeah,
that.
Captain Jeff's gonna pay for not getting him the mustachioed photo.
Exactly.
Nice beaver.
And I've just had it stuffed.
Oh, here, I'll play the whole thing then. I should, yeah.
Nice beaver.
Thank you. I just had it stuffed.
Never gets old.
Never gets old. Yeah.
Liz, it's not the same without being able to hear you. When Jeff puts you in on the audio podcast,
Oh yeah, I know. I agree. Yeah.
and it's like, wait a minute, where's Liz? I keep on waiting to hear your comments, and if they're not there, I'm
interjection.
watching his face change all the time, and it goes like, damn it, where's Liz?
Too distracting during the live show, but then he puts me in post. So
Yeah. Because she does a lot of things like half an hour.
Yeah.
You know, there's a lot of these kind of things going on there that, you know, nobody wants to hear that really. Not
I
even
guess
me.
you could say something about it's not an emergency too, Nick, if you wanted to try that one too.
Yeah.
Not
Turn the gain up, your gain knob up a little bit, please, Liz.
not an emergency.
Ah,
Not
there you
an
go.
emergency.
I can hear you better.
9 emergency.
9.
It's not
Emergency?
An emergency.
9. N-E-I-N?
Oh, you could get Marcus to do that. 9.
Oh, yeah, but how would that convey?
I know.
to
I don't know
cover?
how you illustrate it.
Have a picture of Marcus
Baron
saying,
von
9.
Volker.
Emergency. 9.
I think we need Marcus to comment on that whole situation. Send in
Yeah, that
audio,
would be
send in
interesting.
audio feedback from Marcus
Yeah.
on that situation.
Exactly.
Okay,
All right.
everybody, thanks for joining us. That was
Yeah.
nice. We could get the Europeans and the Middle Eastern folks to
Right.
good time for them.
Nice to do it a little bit earlier.
Absolutely. Yeah, we like this time.
All
So
right.
I'm going to end the broadcast.
Yeah, let's end the broadcast, and we'll see you all next week. Bye.
Bye.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.